you want to go first? Is that what you said? Okay, so make sure. Jimmy up my pop here.
All right, I'm gonna just put the word out on Twitter real quick.
And hey, I don't need my phone for the show, so that can sit over there. So much better.
Yeah.
So much easier. Although I managed to get a lot of last-minute news today. Man, I've been stacked. I got a paperwork you wouldn't believe. Oh, man.
Okay.
I'm the odd combination of tired and overly caffeinated. How many followers did that say we had?
This is Twitter, 447.
We got all tweets.
Yeah.
I thought I died. I was like, holy Jesus. Hey, I saw that your Facebook though is, or I mean the YouTube is edging up to near what was it? Whatever the next big round number is.
Yeah. We're coming in on 750, so that's good.
Every time I log into there, I see a lot of people added us, so that's always nice. We were getting a little more mass. Are we on?
Yeah.
Hi everyone. Man, I have to tone it down here. I'm the.
Hey Kate. Hey Will.
I'm both tired and over caffeinated.
All right.
I've been drinking these all day long. Man, I'm telling you, dude.
You ought to start making the switch to grown-up drinks, like
Booze.
Tea and coffee.
I don't like. Shh, you kidding me? Well, if I ever grow up, I'll do it. How's that sound?
It'll never happen.
I know.
Not as long as the Nate keeps appearing in the guise of a doctor. All right, here we go. So, oh yeah, I always forget that you're the one that starts this. So
okay,
I'm gonna
give me a second. Hear me.
Okay.
Oh man.
Whenever you're ready, we're rolling.
You ready?
Yep.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another exciting episode of ARG Presents. I am Amigo Aaron, joined, as always, by the Gangster of Love and the Sultan of Swing, John Boat of Carshaller.
Hello, hello, hello.
So, if you watched last week, you'll recall that the Retro Roulette tasked us this week to play games from the Commodore 64 computer line. A little bit about the Commodore 64, for those that live under a rock. It is the largest selling budget PC of all time, if you discount the recently produced Raspberry Pi, which I think I read that it surpassed it. But I mean, that's kind of you're in an iffy area there with that. This console sold between 10 and 17 million units worldwide in its day, which is amazing. So this unit debuted in 1982. It was announced in January and it shipped in September. And at a price tag, and this surprised me, Bub, because this is known as the budget machine of its era. This released at a price of $595 US. In today's money, you're looking at $1,560.
Right.
Now, what's the key to that? 1 year later, it was cut in half, $300.
Well, you know, here's something I was reading today. I was reading up on the C64. Do you know what the total cost in parts of the C64 was?
I don't.
$147.
Really?
So even at half its original price, they were still making money.
Well, that was sort of Commodore's MO back in the day. And one thing that is interesting to know is that they produced a lot of their own chips because Trammell had cajoled and done everything he could to basically own these chip manufacturers.
He went out and bought the factory. Yeah.
That's right, and that is a whole other story. Something else that's I thought was kind of interesting was that according to Wiki and a few other sources I saw, there have been at least 10,000 commercial releases on the Commodore 64.
It's an unbelievable number.
Astounding amount. And yet, from that incredible number, it is our job to talk about just two.
Narrow the field.
And I think we picked a couple good ones this week.
I think so. I think so.
So you want to lead us off this week? What do you got for us?
Aaron, this week we are going to be talking about Skate or Die. So Skate or Die was released in 1988 for the Commodore 64 originally, but it was later ported to the Apple II GS, the ZX Spectrum, the NES, DOS, the ST, and the Amstrad.
Wow, I didn't realize it got that many ports.
It got a ton of ports. Sadly, it got no Atari 8-bit port because Electronic Arts had dropped support for the 8-bit line a couple of years back. You know, that's one of the things that really separates the C64 from the Atari 8-bits. That was kind kind of its rival, but the C64 just simply outlasted it by years and years and years. The Atari, once they started the ST, they pretty much dropped their 8-bit line completely, but Commodore, never one to lose a moneymaker, continued pushing the C64 long after the Amiga's release.
With that amount of numbers that are out there, I can see why they would continue to support them.
Yeah.
And also, the Atari did release several years earlier, and so by that time, I guess they just figured it was time to move on.
Right, right. This was published by Electronic Arts, and it was coded by 3 guys, Michael Kosaka, Stephen Landrum, and David Bunch. Something interesting about these guys, I looked multiple sites on the internet, and I could find no other games that these 3 guys worked on.
Now, I seems to, now stop me if I'm wrong, because I know you did a lot of research for this, but I believe those guys all came over, at least some of them came from Epix.
They might have.
Because I know some of the guys that worked on this originally also worked on the game series for Epix.
Well, that certainly makes sense with this style of game, but
yeah.
You know how normally when you look on Lemon 64 and Moby Games, all of the coders and things are hyperlinked, so you can see what else they've done. Well, I clicked on these guys' names and nothing else was coming up. So.
But yeah, I know at least a couple of these guys worked for Epix on the games, and it does come through, I think, on that.
Yeah, yeah. The music was by Rob Hubbard, and he is storied in his, he's done many titles for the C64. 2 that I chose to pick out were Action Biker. If you've ever played Action Biker, you've heard his tune over and over and over again.
But I've not played it. I have heard that tune.
And also he did the music for International Karate.
Yes.
So, so yeah, Rob Hubbard, a giant in the C64
yeah, he's
scene.
Much ballyhooed. He's a very popular artist. And
yeah.
The tunes in this are really good.
Yeah, yeah. So what is this game? This is a skateboard simulation that is it borrows heavily from, like you said, the Epix Games series. You, up to 8 players, can compete in either one event or all 8 events. And you start out, but the thing that makes this game really cool is that instead of just starting out like the game series often does, where you just have a static screen with text on it and you choose your event that way, this game starts you off in a skate shop, okay? And you see this crazy looking middle-aged dude with a purple mohawk yakking at you, and you can choose a bunch of different options. This is kind of an interactive menu. You've got a cursor, which is a weird thing to have on the C64, and you actually move the joystick around with the cursor, and you can look at different things inside this skate shop. For example, when you hover over the posters, Rodney says, "Yeah, maybe one day you'll be on a poster." And there's a pugil stick up at the top that he says you use in the joust. There's also, instead of just having a thing that says register, there's actually a sign-in sheet, you know, and you click on that and you sign in, and that's how you compete. And so it's something that they didn't have to do, and it's something that makes this game sort of go above and beyond the Epix games. You could tell that they were trying to push the genre forward, and it's really cool. One thing that you can do in the C64 version that you cannot do in the NES version, and I'm going to be referencing the NES version several times over the course of this because that's the version I grew up playing. You can actually change your board color in this game. In the NES version, I don't believe you can, or if you could, I never did it. So that's kind of neat. The bad thing about the skate shop, and this is probably my #1 gripe with this game, I believe the best music in Skate or Die is the skate shop music. However, the skate shop music was not composed by Rob Hubbard at all. It was composed by some guy in Japan working for Konami, because this game was published by Konami and for the NES. Actually, it was published by Ultra, which was a subsidiary of Konami. But it's got this awesome shuffle, and there's none of that. There's no music in the skate shop in the C64 version.
I see. So in that case, that's one area where the NES outshines.
Right. But anyway, once you leave the skate shop, you can either choose to compete or practice, but regardless, you get presented with this overhead map of these destinations. This reminds me a lot of 720, how you actually have to skate to the different events. This is, the world in Skate or Die is not nearly as big as the world in 720. It's not a place where there's other things to do. You can't do tricks for money and things like that, but what you can do is you can go to all 6 events, 5 events, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 events, and so it's just a neat thing.
It reminded me of what was that game we played on the Amiga, Bushido?
Right.
And I think that was an EA title as well. I'd have to wonder if there was some crossover there.
Yeah. Anytime that you can avoid just select your event with the cursor, it's a good thing.
I liked it. I thought that was a good addition from the game series.
Yeah.
Cool.
Now, aside from Rodney and the player character, there are several other people that are in this game to greater or lesser extents. You have, of course, you have Rodney Recluse, who is or perhaps Recluse, spelled cool guy style. He's the owner of the skate shop. Then you've got Poser Pete, and Poser Pete is sort of your opponent in the joust if you are a novice player. Then you've got Aggro Eddie, who is the intermediate guy. And then finally, Bionic Lester, who is Rodney's son. And he's your opponent in both the advanced form of the joust and the downhill jam.
And unbeatable.
Yeah, he's very difficult. Yeah. All right, so there's the characters, there's the setting. Let's talk about the meat of the game, the events.
All right.
Okay. So the first event is the freestyle. Okay. This is probably I won't. It's probably my favorite event in the game. It's a half pipe. It's a rather large half pipe, it seems. What you do is you get 10 passes. You go back and forth, and you do tricks. There is a high jump. The high jump, you have to 360 on the joystick to get higher and higher.
Brutal.
There is the race. It's a downhill cross-country race. You've got the jam, which is like it's a two-person race that involves combat, sort of like Road Rash or something like that.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Yeah.
And then finally, you have the joust, and the joust takes place in a drained swimming pool, and you basically you face off against an opponent with pugil sticks, like they use in the Army or American Gladiators, and it's your job to either avoid getting knocked off your board or to knock the other person off his board.
Yeah, I guess as I recall, every 3 passes, the stick goes from one guy to the other.
Right. So I thought that I'd talk a little bit about each one of these events a little bit more in depth. Mm-hmm. So the freestyle, there are a bunch of different tricks that you can do. This, in my opinion, there's a couple games that have a half pipe section. For example, I know that California Games has a half pipe, and I know there's at least one other game out there that has a half pipe as part of a mini game collection. This is the only one of those games that I can manage to do anything in. I think that however they set this up to make a control, it's immediately apparent what you have to do. To gain speed, you hit your button when you go into the more shaded sections of the ramp. You fly up in the air, you push a stick one way or the other way, you start to spin, you move up or down. It's easy to grab your board and go along the lip of it. You can do a hand plant where you go up in the air. There are several different spinning tricks that you can do. And I was able to do almost everything. I think that I could do every single trick pretty much on command, which is a rare feat. In California Games, I never really even managed to know what I was doing ever, and I've played that many, many times.
In California Games, this is what, it's almost like they said, okay, we did this in California Games, now we're going to really do it.
Right.
Because this is more like a proper game, in my opinion. And once you figure out how to gain speed, which it took me a while to figure. I had played this game years and years ago on the NES, but I hadn't played it for a long time. And so for a while, I just lumbered around. And I was like, oh, yeah, I remember now. And it's neat to be able to do a lot of tricks. Mm-hmm. And something I thought was real neat or wacky is that, when you sort of change directions as you spin down on the base of that thing, your guy really cuts an angle sometimes,
yeah.
And it's very visually wacky.
Mm-hmm.
And also, of course, many times my guy would fly off the side and be disrobed like
right.
Charlie Brown.
Exactly. I actually have that in my notes right here. Lose clothes, Charlie Brown style. So,
but yeah, this could have been a lot of PC games from back in this year. This probably could have been a game.
Right.
And just by itself, it was pretty good.
One difference between this and the NES version is in this game you are only allowed to gain speed when you're in those shaded sections of the ramp. In the NES version, if you mash the button, you're going to be gaining speed the whole time.
Oh, maybe
so
that's why I had so much trouble.
It's a little bit easier to really get some good air in the NES version. But anyway, very solid event, the freestyle. Next is the high jump. This is the weak one in the pack for me. In this, you're basically, I think you get 3 passes. You rotate the joystick, and the faster you rotate the joystick, the higher you go. When you feel like you've done the best that you can, you hit the button and you go back up on the other side, you get off, that's the end of the event. And you're just basically trying to get how high can you go from one pass on the half pipe.
It's funny, I was not a super fan of this event, but of all the events, I probably did better at this one than I did the other ones because I had the Wico. And that thing's perfect. It's the size of the cigarette. It's perfect for me to spin that sucker.
Oh yeah.
And like my brother, just go to work. I mean, I could hear that thing mashing up inside. This is much like decathlon stuff. Just the joystick destroyer.
Right.
But I had pretty good luck, and you could edge your board up there, hit the button at the right time, and kind of get a little bit higher. So
now,
kind of cool. I could almost jump off the screen, which I thought was cool.
This is one game where the C64 version is miles ahead of the NES version for two reasons. One, in the NES version, you have to tap a button. And I was never able to actually do anything. Like, my button mashing skills are not the best, but they're not the worst. And the only way I could ever get anywhere is to take out my NES Max or my NES Advantage and push down that rapid fire button. So
you have to hit it like track and field.
No, I think it's just one button.
That would be tough.
Yeah. And so, and the bad thing is that in the NES version, once you lose your momentum, you just settle to the bottom, and there's no way to get out. And so you have to physically reset the console to get out of that. So that's no good.
I mean, but yeah, this is probably the least imaginative.
Yeah. Now, I'll tell you what is cool about this, and also puts it ahead of the NES version, is that when you crash in this, did you ever crash in this?
No, I don't think so.
Your body physically disintegrates on the thing. It just splats you out. The NES version doesn't do that. It's very graphic. So that is the high jump. The race is probably my second favorite. I really like the race. It is a sort of a cross-country race where you're going across all kinds of different terrain. You go over grass, you go over gravel, and there's multiple paths that you can take as you race down this thing. And there's ramps, you can jump over water and things like that. There's a secret path through a pipe you can take if you duck down. It's really, really cool. And in all of the downhill events, you can choose between what they call regular foot and goofy foot. And regular foot is where the controls are basically down moves you down and up moves you up, and goofy foot is reversed. Now, it's possible that that might be opposite. One does one and one does the other.
Goofy, I use goofy, and it's sort of right is your skater's right, and left is your skater's left.
Okay.
That way, it was easier for me to use goofy to do it. I will say that the race that was my favorite event, and I mean, don't get me wrong, the half pipe's pretty good, but the race was fun. The course was interesting. And there would be places I would go by, and I'd be like, "Hey, can you go up that? Is that like?" There's this one point where you come down the path, and there's a ramp that goes up to this like building, and I didn't even know that was even part of the that you could go up there.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, that's cool." I'm not great at it, but I thought it was the most interesting of the event.
And here's the thing that makes both the race and the jam interesting, is that they are not just pure races who can get to the end of the fastest. You also can get points for doing various tricks. So you have to kind of weigh against yourself, is it worth it to go a little bit slower and rack up some more points doing some tricks going through the pipe and stuff like that? Or do I want to just use blind speed and try and get my highest score that way?
Yeah, because you can sort of angle your way through the course without taking a lot of chances. Like, you don't have to go off the ramp. You don't have to go over you don't have to go to the construction signs and or through the pipes and all that stuff. But yeah, and not to mention it's just a lot more fun.
Yeah.
Just going down that lame style it's lame.
It's no good.
Yeah.
Next up, we have another downhill event called the Jam. And this is probably I
hated this event, I'm not gonna lie.
This is probably the weakest one in the game, I think. It's a neat concept where it's another downhill race, and you're racing against an opponent, and you're going through a more urban environment. I think the downhill race is more kind of in the country, more like a park. This is more of you're in the middle of a city, and you've got to negotiate yourself through different gaps and fences. There's one point where you can go through somebody's yard and go under their clothesline, and you get points for crushing bottles, crushing cans with your board, which is a weird thing to be able to do with a skateboard.
Sounds like it would just kill you instantly if you did this. You get a little rock and knock you off.
Right. And you are up against an opponent. Lester is your opponent, and you also are tasked with trying to knock him off his board for points, and at the same time, he's trying to knock you off your board.
He's better.
He is.
I would wager this would be more fun with another human.
Yeah.
I didn't get a chance to play with another person, But Lester's, he's just too tough. He's really tough.
But again, this is a game where you're always competing for score. So if you take your time a little bit, go through, mash some extra cans, take some hidden areas, you don't have to necessarily win the race to come out ahead in the points.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, this was okay. It was okay. It was not my favorite.
Right.
Because I was frustrated a lot.
Right.
The course is tough too. It's real tough. It's not like the other course. I mean, you get caught on a fence or something.
Well, the good thing is that the game will automatically, like, it's impossible to come too far behind because it's not a split screen deal. So the game will catch you up, but it docks your time.
Yeah,
you know,
and you need caught up. I mean, gosh, I don't know what would happen. You never.
Yeah, it would just be over. You should just skate back home. And finally, you've got the joust. And this is a very simple exercise. You're basically on opposite sides of a swimming pool, if you can imagine, swooping down to each other. And the key on the defense is to kind of time the time where you start your descent with the time that the other person is far away from you, so you're able to sort of skate on opposite ends of the pool the whole time.
This is another one probably be more fun with two people.
Absolutely.
You know, I have a vague memory of playing this with my brother, so we must have played it somewhere. It must have been on his NES back in the day. But again, this is okay, and this one I had at least a decent chance against the computer. But it was still tough.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sure after a lot more practice I get better at it. But it was just, I think that's clever. You know, what was the skating movie that was out in the '80s? Was it Thrashing or Thrashers?
That's
I believe
Thrashing. There has to be an apostrophe in it.
I believe that there was something like this in the movie. I haven't seen this movie for a long time, but I vaguely
They had to have gotten that idea from somewhere.
I don't know.
And definitely not real life, because there's no way that
people do
first of all,
in those pools. They do that.
Yeah, but first of all, like, do you see the size of that pool?
It's
the size of that pool is like it's like a football field. I don't know how, you know, I don't know. If you're a skater out there and you use real pugil sticks in a swimming pool, let me know how that went, because I'm curious.
I would like to see that.
Yeah. So this game reviewed very well. I found 3 reviews from magazines from back in the day. ASM gave it an 8 out of 12. I'm not sure if that's accurate or not.
That is a weird scoring system they got there.
Power Play and their issue gave it a 70, and Zap64 gave it a 92. So it reviewed pretty well, undoubtedly, because it is one of the classics on the machine. This game had some sequels. Okay, it was followed a couple of years later by a wintertime game called Ski or Die. Now, did you ever play that one?
I know it's out on the Amiga, and I do recall trying it out, and I don't remember liking it very much.
This game is garbage. It's no good. It doesn't have any of the charm of the original one. The events are mostly unplayable. It's unfair to say it's garbage. It's at the level of one of the games. Like, I think that by and large the events in this game control better than the events in the games. This sort of takes a step back, and it's sort of like winter games, but without all the fun. Because there's, aside from skiing and snowboarding, you can't really do a whole lot of other things. And the slalom game in Ski or Die is not as good as Slalom for the NES, which came out like 6 years before it. So it's no good.
Okay.
Now, this next game, and Ski or Die had a multi-platform release. As you said, it was even out on the Amiga. In 1990, Skate or Die 2 was released for the NES only. It was an NES exclusive. Okay, now did you ever play this one?
You know, it seemed like I knew it existed, but I don't think I ever played it. I don't recall.
So they took a different tack with this one. It's a game with it's sort of 2 games in one. The first one is, the total name of this game is called Skate or Die 2 Double Trouble or something like that. The Search for Double Trouble. It's a weird title.
Yeah, that title's no good.
Yeah, I don't know why I didn't copy the whole thing in there, but it's got a colon and extra words. The first mode is a side-scrolling adventure game, and it's sort of. It always kind of reminded me of Bart versus the Space Mutants, because you had to like skate on different things to make different things happen, kind of like how you're spray painting different things with Bart versus the Space Mutants. Yeah. It didn't control very well. I found it very hard and not what I was expecting.
Yeah.
However, the second part of the game, and I think this is where the double trouble comes in, it is a dual screen half pipe. So the half pipe actually scrolls as you're skating across it. So if you can picture the half pipe in Skate or Die stretched out over the course of 2 screens with a little pyramid ramp in the middle of it, like something that you might see on Excite Bike, that is the second part of the game.
And that's really weird.
Yeah, and that part of the game's really good.
Has a pipe like that ever been made with a ramp in the middle?
That's a great question. I have no idea.
That seems ultra dangerous.
Yeah. I don't know.
What if you fall off the top and hit the middle of that peak? You're going to get mauled.
Well, I mean, it's so far away, there's no way you could do that. But I guess what you could do is you're skating down, you hit that ramp in the middle, and it takes you almost to the end of that one. Like
you slam into the wall.
You can do that on the game, and it's really cool. So that part of the game is great. The adventure part, I'm not a fan.
What an odd concept. It seems like this is such a cut and dry concept. More events in the same genre, in the same vein as this, and then you're good to go.
If they would have put out just a graphically updated version with different courses of this game for the 16-bit systems, it would have sold like crazy.
Yeah, you'd think.
Yeah. This game also had a couple of other sequels, which I had no idea existed.
Okay.
This game had 2 Game Boy exclusives. So, of course, the Game Boy was a hot property in 1990. And we had Skate or Die, Bad and Rad.
Man, these names are horrible.
And that was just a platformer, just like the adventure mode, but even more of a platformer. Almost like, do you remember, have you played Adventure Island before?
Yes.
You know, when you get the skateboard?
Yes.
It's that sort of a deal.
Okay.
And then you also have Skate or Die, Tour de Thrash.
That also sucks. God.
And this was exactly like Skate or Die 2, where you have the half pipe mode. Oh no, I'm sorry, this is not like that at all. Forget that. Retro Rocket Ramp is the first part of this, and this is almost identical to the half pipe mode in Skate or Die 2. Okay, so you've got the good part of Skate or Die 2,
yeah.
And then the second mode, get this, is called the Stale Fish Tour. Okay, and this is like a world championship event where you go to events all over the world, and you have these very long half pipe sections. So it's kind of similar to, you know, the bonus stage in Sonic 2.
Yeah.
Where you're in that half pipe and you're collecting things and you're avoiding obstacles.
Yes.
It's basically like going all over the world competing in that.
Okay.
So very weird.
And these are on the Game Boy.
These were both Game Boy exclusives.
Okay.
So I never knew those existed. Kind of crazy.
That is bizarre.
Yeah. So on eBay, this is actually I was expecting this game to be a high dollar game.
Well, yeah, because it's in the classic
Right.
album style folding cover.
Right, and coming off a Mule, where that game regularly sells for over $100, you could get this one recently sold, complete in the 45 sleeve for $35.
Really?
Yeah,
that is surprising.
Very reasonable. And I looked up the NES version just because there was a sealed version of that sold for $110. So it's not cheap, but not crazy expensive for a sealed game.
You know, I was just looking a few things up on this before the show, and there were 2 things I didn't realize. Well, one thing I realized, if you look closely at Rodney, and I don't think you mentioned this, he looks like Rodney Dangerfield.
Right, I didn't mention that. You're right.
And it's
no respect.
So stupid. And clearly he was a Marine because he's got a Marine tattoo. And the other thing I read is that Skate or Die was the very first in-house game that EA ever did. The very first EA-produced game that they produced and distributed.
Really?
Yeah.
Because they'd been at it for forever by that
but
point.
They didn't make their own stuff. This was the very first one. And of course, they brought in guys from Epics, but I don't know how many exactly of the guys that worked at this were from Epics, but they at least one. And this was so that's kind of neat that this was their very first title that they produced. Now they produce a zillion tons of titles.
Yeah.
But overall, I thought it was it aged well. Look, you know, the Commodore 64 version looks good. It plays good.
I can't think of too many games that look and play this well on the system, on the C64.
It's smooth.
It runs so smooth and so fast, and it's so colorful.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, and which sometimes the C64, that's sort of the knock on it. The Atari was the Atari 8-bits are sort of the colorful machines, and these were sort of this quite had the sprites and whatnot. But I mean, it was nice. They did a good job, and of course the graphics, there's a lot of attention to detail.
So anyway, just to wrap up, I love this game because it sums up sort of the 80s, you know, with the fashion and the attitude and the skateboarding culture. It's just a nice throwback to that time, and the music is fantastic.
Let me ask you, here's the big question you didn't answer. Which do you like more, this or that CNC surf design game?
Oh, just wait till we do the NES. That's going to be my first.
Do you have a preference of the two?
I probably like TNC Surf Designs more.
There it is.
TNC is it's one of my favorite games on the system, but this is a very solid title, and this is definitely more fun to play with 2 players. Yeah,
fair enough.
All right, Aaron, it's time to move on to your title of the week, Forbidden Forest.
So, Forbidden Forest is a I've heard a lot about this title, but it's the first time I get to sit down and mess with it. So this came out on the C64 in '83, and it was published by an outfit called Cosme.
Not Cosmic, as I thought it was a typo.
Cosme, yeah. They were a California-based outfit, and they've been around for a long time. They were around their beginning of the company, sort of sketching, but they were out sometime before '82. And as of 2016, they were still active in the budget area of PC releases. Now, I don't know, I couldn't find anything in the past 2 years, but they actually had they bought another company in 2016, which that's incredible if you think about it. That's a long run. So, to talk about this game, you really first got to get into the guy that made it. And the guy's name was Paul Norman. All right, now, Paul Norman is a pretty big name on the C64, but his story is just unbelievably bizarre. So, Paul is a musician, and he was in bands and played clubs and stuff in the 70s, and these are his own words. So in the 80s, in the early 80s and the late 70s, disco sort of dried up a lot of his work. A lot of these places became disco clubs and whatnot. So he was in a music shop one day, and they had a VIC-20 for sale, and he bought one.
What a weird place to buy a VIC-20.
Yeah. And he bought one, took it home, and he taught himself how to use basic programming. And so he learned basic, and he made some various basic games, and he thought were pretty good games. And so he found an ad in the paper, and this is a sign of the times, that a place was looking for a game programmer. All right, so this is like in the one ads, wanted game programmer, right? So he went 30 miles. He rented a car. He took his basic programs in. They looked at them. They liked them. They said, "Hey, these are pretty good." And they were. He said, this is according to him. They ran so quickly. They assumed he knew how to program a machine language. He's like, "You know how to program a machine language?" Paul was like, "Of course."
Huh.
They're like, "You're hired." All right. So he went to work for them, and so he worked there for about 3 months with a couple other guys, and according to him, there were 2 aerospace engineers that worked there. So
wow,
you can imagine
that's crazy.
They were programming these games. And then one day he was there by himself, and some people came in and started taking out the furniture. It was like, because the place he worked was like a 12 by 12 beige room, basically. That's where he worked. That was the headquarters of this outfit. And they came in, and he's like, "What's going on?" He's like, "Oh, we're buying all this furniture. This company's out of business."
Wow.
And by this time, I think he said he was halfway through making the game. And so he goes, and so they saw him there working, because and they were like, they saw what he was doing, and they said, "That looks pretty good. Let's talk." Because the people, ironically, amazingly, the people buying this furniture were another video game maker. Okay,
we want this furniture, man. It's got the good juju.
It was Cosme. They were the ones that saw him, right?
Wow.
So they took and looked at his stuff, and they said, "Listen, we like your stuff. We're going to call you back, and you can come work for us." And so they effectively, when they bought the furniture, they bought Paul Norman. They bought everything.
Right with it.
Right. So. So he went to work for Cosme. Now Cosme didn't have a headquarters. I don't know what they were doing with the furniture,
That's the real question. Where did the furniture end up?
It was an outfit. Now, they had been around for a good while, and they put out a bunch of games. Just to name off some of their, and trust me when I tell you this, they've put out a lot of absolute budget junkaroo. All right, but excuse me, they put out some good stuff, including and some of these you've heard of. They put out the Slinky, which is a pretty big title.
Yep.
Jagged Alliance 2, which I'd heard of that one.
Jagged Alliance.
Yeah. Super Huey 1 and 2, which and some of these Paul Norman did. Navy SEAL was Paul Norman. Aztec Challenge, that was Paul Norman. So he could tell a lot of their big hits were his. They did Richard Petty's Talladega. I don't know how that one got in there. So they had some hits, but so they put him to work, and he just worked from his house because what he'd been doing was renting a car and driving back and forth to his job every day. They were just like, go home here, and they go home, take the C64 that they gave you, go home and finish your game. And so he went home and finished the game after he negotiated with these guys. And so getting back to him making the game is even more wacky because he goes home originally to make this game, and he doesn't know how to program in machine language. And I did a little basic. Everyone's done a little. There's a giant leap between the two.
Giant doesn't even describe it. I mean,
he learned how to program while making Forbidden Forest.
Wow.
This was literally his exercise, and it's the first game it's the first piece of software he ever made in programming. Was Forbidden Forest.
It's unbelievable.
I know. Did you ever heard any of this before? So he presented this to the guys, and they said the guy that owns Cosme was this guy. He had he was a big player, and this was just he had a bunch of money making skins. They went to his house and they were demoing this, and they said when they first showed the multiple planar screens, as people literally audibly gasped.
Yeah.
They could not believe what they were seeing, and so he knew he was in business. So with all that background, let's talk about the actual game. So Forbidden Forest is a game where you are an archer, and you're in a forbidden forest, effectively a forest full of nasty stuff. You are armed with, like I said, bow and arrow. You start with 4 quivers of arrows, and you can sort of free roam in a circular way. Basically, whatever goes off stream comes back around.
Yeah, it loops around.
Right, and you have free roam through the forest. So in every level, stuff attacks you. Okay, so in the first level, you're standing there, and this is sort of jarring if you don't know what you're playing. The first level, you're standing there, all of a sudden these spiders, these giant spiders, and the way you actually have full rotational, you got about 180-degree aim with the bow and arrow, right? I mean, probably not quite that, but close.
Pretty close.
And the first thing I learned, notch an arrow. Because I hit the button, he began to notch an arrow as a spider.
And then a spider ate your face.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you'll notice right away when the spider gets you that you bleed.
Oh, yeah, and it's not a short death either.
No,
it's a long, agonizing...
the dance of death, basically. In fact, this is the danceest arch you've ever saw. I'll get to that in a minute. So you have to notch an arrow, and then you have to aim your bow, and then you fire it at the monster. In this case, the first monster is the spiders. And you shoot them, and when you shoot these spiders, they don't just disappear. I mean, they literally blood comes out of them. One thing about this game, it's an early example of gore.
Yeah,
it reminds me a lot of that game we did on the Amiga, Moonstone. It's just like the prequel to Moonstone in a lot of ways. So and we should mention that when the level starts and it gets going, the music starts ramping up.
Yep.
The music, and it's also by Paul Norman. He did everything. Is off the charts.
It is so good.
It's some of the best music you're ever going to hear on the C64. Just loved it. And I mean, I'd heard people talk about it. Oh yeah, but I mean, this music was so good.
And I'll tell you, this is when I first started playing this, I didn't have the sound on. I was listening to something else.
Yeah.
And I saw this guy, I saw my archer, and he was grooving. And I was like, man, what's he listening to? So I turn on the music, and I start dancing, too. It's great.
So once you dispatch the spider, and I think you take out a couple of them, you hear the song really ramp up, and your archer just starts going to work.
Yeah.
And Paul Norman said what he was doing there is he was displaying every type of graphic that the archer can do.
Oh, okay.
So all those little movements, all that crazy dancing, that's everything the archer, every possible look for the archer.
I do that same thing when I dance. I just think about every possible motion I could make.
Have you seen you dance? I believe you. And so the funny thing about this game, and I mean, this game is after I tell you this is the first game he did, you could understand that because there are some things that they're so goofy that a first-time programmer would do this and not think much about it. When you get killed, in most games you get killed, it's like you need to disappear. And we've mentioned he does the dance. He does a good 10-second dance, boom, 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 and as he's bleeding out, all right, and then instantly you're just back in the game. It's like that. You're like, holy crap! And then when he wins a level, he doesn't just go to the next level. Nothing changes, right? Except here he goes. He starts going to work, dancing. He dances for about 15 seconds before the level changes to wherever the next monster is. The next monster in this case are bees. Now, the bees level is one where the music sort of superseded by the actual sound of the bees, and it's awesome. It sounds just like a buzzing bee.
Right, a giant bee.
Something else this world has, if you look at this world, I mean, there's one world to describe it. It's blocky. It's a big, weird... The graphics in it, if you looked at a screenshot, you'd be like, what is this crap? But if you see it in action, it actually works in a weird way.
It's very similar to something like Minecraft, where it's very plain, but when you're in the world, it really is sort of immersive.
Yeah, and when you see that kind of multiple plane scrolling, it's quite amazing, really. Yeah. But in the second level, these bees will come out, and the world has depth. You can't, for those on the package, you can't see me using my hand to show depth, but they come out and they get bigger.
Right, there's sprite scaling on a console or on a computer that could not do sprite scaling.
Now, well, I mean, this is not Nintendo level, but I mean, they kind of
that's the effect is what it's the effect of sprite scaling.
And then if you practice, you can practice kind of aiming your bow to kind of get this
you can get a beat on it.
Right, and it works in a weird way. It works.
Yeah.
And so the bees I thought the bees were kind of tough. They weren't the toughest. They were kind of tough. And when you get stung with a bee, again, death. You get the blood and the death. And when you knock the bees out of the sky, they just kind of hit the ground. I have to describe this stuff because it's like Dragon's Lair. Sometimes the deaths are so funny. They've got to be mentioned. So the next level are these giant frogs. The giant frogs. It gets dark. We should mention that as you play this game, day becomes night, and night becomes
and that's
super
one of the
black
things
night.
that happens when he's dancing. Is that's where the day-night cycle occurs.
And there's also a big sort of skull-faced moon, and it comes across the horizon, which is again these are things that are just there. They just add to the ambiance. So the frogs. You shoot these things, but even if you shoot them, if they're in your way, they'll just come down, and when they come down on you, they just smash you.
It's the end, right there. There's no dance.
There's no dance for that one. You just are mush. So if you knock a couple of these frogs out, and the best thing to do on that level, as far as I went, was just to try to move out of their way, and just as soon as you get a spare moment, notch an arrow and try to just randomly shoot a couple, and you might get lucky. So after that, you've got the dragon. Now, it's funny, I was watching your playthrough on this, and I was like, man, how lucky did you got so lucky on some of these kills. I know. So the dragon comes from way off in the distance. You can see him. It takes a little while for him to show up. Some of this stuff, a lot of times, doesn't show up right away. There's times where you're looking through the woods like scared to death. Like,
it's almost like a survival horror game.
It is. And then here comes the dragon flying in from the distance, and he'll come in and he'll fry you. Yeah. And your guy's on fire, dancing. Oh God, which the dance is more legitimate right there. I mean, he's on fire, but if you kill the dragon, it's so awesome. The dragon flies out of the sky he falls down like a cement block and just burns. You're like, yes. And then the happy dance goes on. So, and I'm very satisfied. Now the next level is, man, I died so much. I had put infinite lives on because I could not get past this. Admittedly, I couldn't get past it. It was the stupid. It's the skeleton and phantom level.
Phantom, yep.
Or some people call it the wizard. So on this level, the skeleton men sort of diagonally come at you with these spears. And it's sort of like the spiders, except they've got longer range and they're quicker.
They're fast.
Yeah. And you can shoot them, and it's great. You feel like $1 million, but the problem is the level don't end because off in the distance there's this like specter, almost looks like a grim reaper hovering around, and like underneath. The way they've got the level set up, it's sort of he's behind one of the planes and in front of another one. It's a cool effect. And so what you've got to do is, and when he appears, you've got to nail him with an arrow while avoiding the skeleton.
Right. The skeleton is immaterial. You do not have to defeat the skeleton.
But the skeletons are I got killed by those things a million. I
Mm-hmm.
just about said, heck with this. I was just like, man, I can't get past these guys. And I'm sure there's a trick to it that I don't know.
Well, I think that a lot of this game is luck. I would play through this. I played through the whole game 2 or 3 times, and sometimes I would have no trouble, but there would be other times where like I get stuck on the spider stage and I'd be there forever. So.
Yeah, that can be tough. But this level is the one that really got me. That much said, I can't tell you how creepy it is when you finally shoot this guy. He makes this noise that it is the creepiest tone. It's just one long tone. And it is so creepy. This guy, you see him in the background sort of fizzling as the tone goes on. I bet it lasts 30 seconds. It's like a scream or something. It is creepy. I thought that was, I got chills.
You know what it reminded me of is the Banshee in Darby O'Gill and the Little People.
Well, there was a Banshee-like scream. I mean, I think that was the creepiest thing until the end of the game. But that was another thing. Again, brilliant. It was brilliant. If you'd said, yeah, at this point I just want a long tone that goes for 30 seconds, I'm like, you're nuts. And you're going to dance while this is going on.
Right.
But, man, it is creepy and that thing fizzles out. So, I mean, that's great. So then you've got the snake. Now, the snake is another very clever effect done by Paul where you don't see the snake right away, but then the snake's head comes and the upper part of the snake comes up and he's behind that first level of vegetation and he strikes.
Right.
And what he does is he spits like venom at you, and when it hits you, the guy just melts. Just melts to the ground. There's no dancing. He's just gone. And it's an awesome effect, and it looks cool. The sound of the venom is cool. It's just cool, and the snake looks awesome. And when you kill the snake, the head just kind of flops over, and then just a gush of blood just comes out of the snake. It's delightfully violent.
It is very graphic for a C64 title.
Yes, I mean he bleeds a ton. It's really cool. I mean, and it's a neat effect. And then the king of this game, and again, not knowing how this was going to go the first time I played it, I couldn't believe how many different things there were.
Yeah.
I was like, man, it's like all these different levels. The last guy was, I mean, just freaking awesome. So the game gets quiet, and it's really dark, and you see occasional strikes of lightning, right? And you're just wandering around, and then a lightning strike hits, and you catch a glimpse of something out in the distance. And this something is the Demogorgon, which
very famous these days,
right?
Yeah.
I mean, because of Stranger Things, but this predates that by a long shot. Of course, I'm sure he was flipping through a D&D guide or something.
Right.
So the Demogorgon, it's hard to explain what he looks like because I didn't get a real good look at him until the very last look you get. But he's just this creepy guy, this entity, and he'll appear like up in a tree or something, or like behind a bush, and you just barely can see him, and you only see him when there's lightning. And I noticed that there are these stars that will sparkle. Did you notice that? And they'll shimmer in the background. The sky in this part is the darkest. The whole area is as dark as it can be when this happens. And the lightning effect is really creepy. This scene right here is the creepiest in the game.
Right, absolutely.
Where you see this thing approaching, and you know it's coming. And I didn't time this, but I read that you've got like 30 seconds to hit this guy, and you only have a minute time frame to launch that arrow at him, and you have to time it perfectly to get him. I watched your playthrough. You're the luckiest I've ever seen. Just random as heck.
It's all skill, baby.
But I had a heck of a time getting this guy. But I mean, and if you don't get him quick enough, he basically comes out. He takes up the whole screen with his face, and you're done. It's over for you. But I mean, it is so well done. It's unbelievable. And when you finally kill this guy, Paul Norman's motto must be, there can't be too much of a good thing, because this guy shoots fireworks off. It was like 30 seconds of continual
Well, it's the end of the
fireworks.
game. I mean,
it is.
How many games have we played or seen where the end? That's it. You know, at least this gives you something.
You're right. I mean, it is an epic ending. Of course, there's the dance, there's the music, and then it loops over and you start again. I couldn't tell you how impressed I was with this. The whole game was a tour de force for the music, the way they visualize the forest, the darkness, the light, the monsters. I mean, I just liked every single part of this. I'm as surprised. This is about the same feeling I had when we looked at the Moonstone game. Just like came out of nowhere. I mean, I'd heard people talk about this game and the music, but it blew me away with how good it was. It also has 4 difficulty levels. I didn't try anything but the easiest one. know how hard the other ones get. I would wager that if there's a bunch of skeletons on the screen at once or spiders, I don't know how you could possibly survive that stuff. Paul mentioned in an interview that he had gotten some of the monsters. They were inspired by a film, and I've never heard of any of these. Maybe you have. Well, I've heard of one. I haven't seen it. Night of the Demon. You ever seen that? Jason and the Argonauts, which I absolutely have seen.
Is that one of those Ray Harryhausen?
That's right. That's right. And it was awful good. And then Mysterious Island. I may have seen that one too. So there was a sequel to this. Believe it or not, it was released in '95. Norman did it as well. But admittedly, he says it was okay. He was proud of some of the stuff, but it was basically sort of like You Can't Go Home Again,
right?
Sort of affair. Believe it or not, there was another sequel, Forbidden Forest 3, released for the PC in 2003. I don't know anything about this, and I don't think he had anything to do with that one at all. This game was pretty popular when it came out. It got 4 out of 5 stars. And was amongst the top favorite games at Zap. It was a very popular game. I didn't get a lot of stuff, but it got an 82%. It was, it's outlived. I mean, it's a classic. It's considered a classic. It makes a lot of lists. Some people can't quite get past the graphics, but I think they need to have another look, frankly, because this is one of those games where the graphics don't tell the tale.
I had no problem with the graphics at all in this.
Yeah. I looked on eBay to see what this was going for, and I found one of these for sale in the U.S. I was surprised. $25 boxed, which I almost hit the button. If I hadn't just spent so much money on a furnace, I was like, man. And then even more tough for me to resist, someone had an awesome poster. The cover for this thing is really cool. It shows a guy getting ready to shoot a monster, and all the monsters are there, and the forest is in the background. It looks sort of German looking to me, and I wanted it bad. I almost pulled the trigger on that too. There's posters for sale too for it. So, but overall,
it's funny, on the cover of the game, your archer is shirtless, but in the game he's very fully clothed, including a jaunty cap.
Yeah. So, I kind of thought maybe he had like a beret.
Yeah, that's what I picture it as.
But overall, you were digging it?
Loved it. Yeah. Loved this game.
It was awesome. I was real pleased with this one. So that's that. It's a good game, and I recommend it if you haven't played it. I mean, it's worth just watching a video just to experience it, to be honest with you.
Yeah. All right, Aaron. It's come to the time in the show. Has it not come to the time in the show? Okay, you gave me a weird look like there was a segment I forgot.
I'm a weird-looking guy, Bo.
Okay.
I'm not going to lie to you.
We're going to pull out the retro roulette wheel.
We're going to pull out some roulette. That's a tough thing to say.
I'm going to let you say it from now on.
Retro roulette?
Yeah. So here we go. From behind the depths, we have center it just so.
Nice.
Zoom in. All right. So last week we added arcade classics. This week we are taking out Commodore 64. Slowly, carefully. Get out of there.
Technical difficulties. You taught me to get you a smaller pair of hands, but
we'll edit this out.
That thing's in there.
Yeah. All right. We have managed to free the C64 thing from its place.
Everything went as normal.
And this week, we are going to add to the wheel chat choice.
Ooh.
So, in case you did not know, we film ARG Presents live every week on YouTube. And if you subscribe to our YouTube channel, you can click the bell, and that will give you a notification of when we are taping. So if chat choice comes up in the on the wheel, then we will do a quick poll in the chat room, and they will decide which one of these systems we will cover. So Aaron,
power to the people, boat.
There we go.
All right,
spin the wheel,
make the deal. Here we go. Oh, that was a good one this week. All right, let's see what we get here, and we have. What do we have? The ColecoVision.
ColecoVision.
All right.
All right. So
How is that possible with the wheel?
yeah, well, there's a little play in it, but that was where it's supposed to be. All right. So next week we will do
The envelopes.
ColecoVision, and Aaron is getting the envelopes now.
All right. Let's see what
Decide
we
which
got here.
games we will play.
ColecoVision. There it is, along with the next envelope. And now we will reveal the games. Gosh, I have no idea. Do you?
No, it's
All
been
right.
too long.
This one's yours. I guess I'll choose first this
Okay.
week. Boy, this is a tough choice. I'm going to go with Smurfs.
Oh,
Smurfs.
Okay. I will choose the arcade classic Ladybug.
Ladybug. Okay, interesting. I have not played that one that much.
Yeah, I have not played the ColecoVision version.
Well said.
But I'm sure it's going to be fun.
I guess that's it then. Tune in next week to see Smurfs and Ladybugs. It's going to be a cute episode, Bo.
Absolutely.
I may come in cosplay.
You should.
Yeah, I think it'll be good.
Are you going to be the Smurf or the Ladybug?
Maybe I'll be both. Maybe I'll be a
Ooh.
Smurf riding a ladybug.
That would be great.
So tune in next week to see that with that visual in your mind. And until then,
Adios. All right.
What'd you think of that
I
one?
thought it went well.
We had a couple good choices that week.
All right. Hey, chat. What's going on, guys? Looks like we got Kate and Eric, Paul, Chris, Walking the Cow, Colin 419. Pishbot, Edvin is in the house.
How long did we go on that one, Boat?
We went an hour.
Brief constitutional. So that's about right. That's about in our wheelhouse.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that. There was some good stuff in there.
So just give us a minute, chat, and we will fire up Amigos. Everybody doing okay? Looks like everybody is. Let's see, where are you, Kate? I think I know almost everybody else. Where everybody else is. Still got the Scandinavian contingent staying up late with us. We appreciate that. Of course, Chris has already started. It's already Saturday morning for him. Yeah, Duncan, I don't think I have. Yeah, I think I'm going to add the CPC to our wheel for next week. I think that's going to be our next pie piece that will go in there.
You're the gangster of love and the salt and the swing, but
That's awesome. I love that.
I ripped all that off.
Really?
I have not. But none of those have been original anyway.
I've never heard those terms
You don't
before.
watch classic wrestling.
Well, I mean, aside from them both being songs too.
Yeah.
Kate's from Texas. Hey, Kate. That's awesome.
Is that a girl? named
Yeah.
Kate? Well, shut my mouth. Let me get a refill, bud, and I'll be ready to do it. What do we got this week? You got feedback and. Because this game, the details are a little bit scanty, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, let me.
There is nothing. That's why I dug up extra news.
I forgot with Amigos, I've got to ready the battlements. Can you grab the papers when they come out of the printer for me?
Yeah.
Get
That's why
this.
Amigos is in the main event. It requires a little work.
Yeah.
Hell, this is Diet Mountain Dew.
Yeah, I only get the good stuff for you. No Diet Dr. Mountain Lightning. What is the...
Man, I'll bring the ColecoVision over next week. Good thing we've been getting stuff.
You don't have to bring one. I've got one right there.
Damn! Go boat!
Yeah, I've also got a Ladybug cart, I think.
I don't think I actually own that one.
Yeah, it's right there on the shelf.
Man, the new retro pie build I've got.
We need to save that for the after show. Last week's
Shit.
after show was weak.
Well, as long as we get through it quick, I'm ready to go. Hey, so listen, what do we have for this before we? I mean, do you have a lot of other stuff aside from the game?
Yeah, it's gonna be fine.
Okay, because like I said, the game, there were no crazy stories. This company doesn't exist. The developer, I looked. I mean, trust me, I milked this thing. The Paul Norman was so easy. I was like, oh man, this was so easy.
Yeah, that's an awesome story.
Isn't that great?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, get the news.
Is it-
No. Look under the Odyssey. Here we go. Sorry, I forgot there were multiple printers over there.
Pointed it down.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, there's a map. That ain't
Grab
it.
that map for me. No, I'm just kidding. You don't need it.
Vote.
That's new. That's the new
I will dress like a Smurf and beat your ass.
Maple Ridge Estates coming soon. Voiceover videos in the making.
What's it like to just make money hand over fist while people are starving?
It's a hard job.
What a bum. And now you're going to get all this extra free time when y'all go on strike.
Except I won't be getting paid for that. That'll be no good.
How much money does one man need?
Well, I can tell you this.
You got to eat, making money. Everybody's making money, but old hoes, I'm taking a bath over here.
What are you talking about? The Kentucky state government just
man.
pulls up the dump truck full of wad.
I'm going to start going to prisons just to get a meal. Let me get my appropriate booklet here.
Let's see
how
here.
thin this booklet is.
So we've got that. I think that's really all we need.
I do have a level-by-level notes for this. Because I played all the levels.
We need to change our scene. Podcast.
What's up, chat, by the way? Yo, yo, yo.
Yeah, there's a big crowd.
Thanks for showing up, y'all.
Today.
I never get to see what's going on in the chat room. I'm sure it's great. Do we have a capture of the chat I can go look at? God, that's crazy to see it on my phone. There we are.
Yeah.
I'm easily amused and amazed. Doesn't take anything. It's like, oh, wow, look, I'm on TV. Just like when I was on Mr. Cartoon back in the day.
It's a shame that you no longer have VHS evidence of that.
I never had it.
Really?
I never
thought
had a
you
copy
said
of
that
that.
somebody taped it for you, or you had it or something.
No.
It was up on the mountain, and then it got lost in a fire.
You sort of made your own story up there. What are you drinking? Super tea?
Super tea.
Be careful where you better move that C64 thing, because I guarantee you, because that tea
That's
on there
probably
ruin
true.
it.
I'm going to make some more of these tonight.
What's next week's little pie piece?
Amstrad CPC.
Oh,
yeah.
Now we're getting somewhere.
Yeah.
Now we're getting, it's getting a little crazy. Hey, if you listen to this show regularly, all right, you're going to learn about some other stuff. Like, I don't know jack squat about the Amstrad, so.
Right.
Not too bad. That's our gimmick. We're a teaching tool as opposed to just tools. Maybe we're both. I think we could be both.
All right, get that up. And perfect.
Tell me that doesn't look like it's something you want to play.
Wow.
That's part of the news, man. It's all part of the news. Let me see where we left off last time. Okay, we did that. We did that. We didn't do that. All right, I got it. I'm locked. Oh, I don't got it. I almost forgot something. That package I got in the mail.
Oh. Can you slide the Twin Bee over and like put it in front of the, we can't actually see it. It's like a little bit more. Yeah, there we go.
Right here beside this thing of tissues.
Yeah.
If you want to decorate the floor back here, we'll get Brent to knock some stuff out.
That we definitely need that.
Well, I should have brought that stuff up. I'll show you when we go up. We should poll the chat and see what kind of posters they want. Okay. The slow Norris, dude. Too slow. A little slow.
How many people with the last name Norris have you known in your life?
Chuck?
I've only known 2 people with the last name Norris in my life, and they've both been named Tim.
Tim Norris?
Mm-hmm.
Really?
My roommate in college, and then some guy at church.
Just some guy?
Some guy.
I don't know him.
All right.
Rutabaga. Rutabaga. See, now I don't have to lead the dance. I just get set back and just react.
That's right.
This is where I'm at my jerky self. Oh, but you sure suck.
All right. They're just talking about the new Hellraiser film.
Oh, God. They made another one of those? Is that the one that has Pinhead in it?
I think they all have Pinhead.
Run, here
in
comes
them.
Pinhead, the least scary villain of all time. What's it going to do?
Well,
Give me extra stuff to do at the office?
Maybe he can just kind of give you a little bit of that action.
You know how you beat Pinhead? You walk up and go,
Yeah.
just drive those suckers
It's true.
home.
It is kind of a weird thing. Okay, here we go. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Amigos. I'm John.
And I'm Aaron.
And today we're going to be talking about rough and tumble.
Okay.
But before we get rough and tumbly, let's talk about the Amiga News. What's going on in Amiga News? Actually, before we get into Amiga News, we got feedback. Sorry, I didn't mean to start your engine too early. So, we did get some new iTunes reviews in, Aaron. You know, iTunes reviews are the lifeblood of the podcast community, even for those that still do it the old-fashioned way by downloading the MP3. So many people discover us through iTunes, so if you leave us a review, we really appreciate it, including this guy called Dean Hawker.
Okay, Dean Hawker.
Dean Hawker. He's from the UK. He says, having found these guys just before Christmas, I've been totally addicted and have listened to almost 100 episodes since.
Holy moly.
Aaron and Boat make great hosts and are extremely funny. Thank you, Dean Hawker.
He must be talking about me, Boat.
That's probably true. Our second one is, this is called, and he titled that review, The Best Retro Gaming Podcast.
Oh, please.
So maybe we should put that on our...
Dean.
On our moniker.
The check's in the mail, brother.
And Digi999 says, essential listening for any Amiga fan. Absolutely superb podcast that not only gives an American view of the Amiga scene, but is presented by two of the most passionate Amiga owners you have ever heard. Up-to-date news, game reviews, great sense of humor. It's essential weekly listening. Thank you, Digi999. That's very kind of you.
Do you consider yourself passionate?
I'm so passionate.
Are you?
I'm a passionate man, Aaron.
That's kind of creepy.
What are you talking about?
Yeah.
And we got one more piece of feedback on our Wing Commander episode.
Okay. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I wanted to hear
we got a message on YouTube from none other than Mark Knight himself. He says, hey guys, just to clear up your comments and questions on the music, I'd argue that the music sounds more like the LAPC1 version of the PC music. We were talking about how I thought it sounded kind of like ad-lib.
No, I thought I said that.
Well,
we both did.
We both did. Yeah. To me, any kind of early PC music, I just say ad-lib because I don't know what things are called. So he says the LAPC, as you may remember, was a sound card by Roland based on their MT32 synthesizer module. So I was not aware of that, but I'm glad to know it. Mark Knight, as we know, is the composer of the Wing Commander music. So,
yeah, that was awesome. When you told me that, I was like, holy mackerel. It's neat that someone that helped make that listen to our show and comment on it. Oh, I just can't believe it.
Yeah, he did the music for the Amiga version.
I knew Roland did have a sound chip. Yamaha also had some. And when he wrote that, I thought about it. It does sound synthy. It does sound MIDI a little bit. And I believe he went on to talk about how the limitations that they had to work with to put the music on the Amiga. It's a real good. It was a very informative little note he left on the thing, and we appreciate it. But yeah. I was happy. I was starstruck briefly.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm a sucker for that vote.
All right, Aaron. Now it's time to start the Amiga News engine.
Are you sure? Do I need to reach for the Galvatron 5000?
Reach for it. Reach for it.
All right. The Amiga News.
Amiga.
Are you gonna have the robot talk again? Whatever.
No, I'll just keep that as a sample.
That.
Yeah.
That's my snidely guy that works at a bank. You know that guy. Oh, you'll deposit him. That's what it says. I don't know. Maybe he doesn't. So I'm becoming you. It's scary. This sounds just like one of your bits right here. Just this random nonsense. So Chris Folds, the legend, a good and dear friend, member of the Brain Trust, has posted a little ditty here about a new low-profile 8 meg fast RAM upgrade module. Now this is an interesting little gimmick on this one. This one fits in the 68,000 socket. And the chipsets on top. They do the craziest stuff with hardware I've ever seen.
Do you have to take out your original processor?
Well, you put it in. You put the board in there, and you put your chip on top of the thing.
Oh,
it's so piggyback special.
Okay.
Man, 8 megs. All right, that's a good deal. By the way, this came off Amiga Love. We love Amiga Love.
We love Amiga Love,
especially right after Valentine's Day. We really love them.
Yeah.
And there it is. You see a little thing there. It sits on top. See, it's a little piggyback.
Oh wow! How cool!
Yeah, isn't that it's awful clever.
Yeah.
That they whoever they are, they've always got a gimmick, an angle.
That seems like the way, if you're going to add RAM in a way that you don't have to, destroy anything in your case or anything like that, or this just seems like a very cool way. Hopefully they will do this. Wouldn't it be great if you could add, an accelerator that was that small and just put it right on top of your CPU?
They do those. They have those, sure. In fact, Here's a little sidebar. By the way, this works in the Amiga 1000, so you can have an Amiga 1000 with eight big megs, which that'd be awesome. Because the Amiga 1000 adding memory is sort of a hassle. They make this gimmick for the 600. Now, the 600, and stupid me, the Huckster reminded me of my own stupidity of Blue was. Because I was like, well, this is working the 600. Well, the Amiga 600 is a different style processor. And the Amiga's 600 processor is sort of like soldered in, right? So they make this gimmick. It's an accelerator. It's also a bunch of extra memory. And it literally, you smash it on top of your processor. It's got a socket. It's in reverse. And the socket goes down on top of the chip that's on your board.
So they totally do make that.
Yeah, it's very bizarre.
I always picture accelerators being like the Vampire, where it's like the size of the motherboard of the computer you're putting it on.
Trust me, we could sit here, we could do a whole show on Amiga hardware, and we'd probably do a bad job. But there are so many crazy styles and sidecars, and it's crazy. Amiga is one of the wackiest mad scientist machine of all time.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't think of one. I mean, the Raspberry Pi is like the modern equivalent, just people just doing crazy stuff to it. It's like, I want to use this to do, God knows what. Anyway, wacky. So that was a good one. And hey, I hear the price is going to be right on that thing too, so not too bad, eh? We should also talk about this crazy joystick here, Boat. The Procon CD32 third-party gamepad for the Amiga CD32. It looks... Well, let's be honest here. This is a Super Nintendo controller with a new, admittedly cool-looking exterior. It's black. It says it's got the Amiga C32 logo on it. I don't know if these are out. I don't know what they're going to go for. I don't think the article says if they're out or what they're going to go for. I think they're something that's in training.
So the guy that is I clicked on the link to EAB, and he says that he wants to sell them as assembled in his kits. So, but I don't see. I
don't think they're at market yet, or I mean, they're just apparently it's being made by some guy.
Right.
And you see a lot of that on the forums.
Yeah.
It's like some guy. I think that 8 meg 68,000. So I think it's another some guy. It's not like super.
Oh, here we go. Yeah. So the full kit is 27 euros. You can get one pre-assembled and tested for 38 euros.
That's not bad.
No.
That's what is it, about 50 bucks?
Yeah. When you consider that these are custom PCBs, this isn't some hack job.
Now I will say this, and this is the first thing I thought of. And I really need to get around to doing this review. I ordered these the Amiga to Super Nintendo adapter, all right, which does everything this does and lets you use it. But I mean, the price is not a whole lot different after shipping. So it sort of depends on what you're after, and it depends on how. I mean, having seen this, we don't know how it's going to feel. I mean, one thing with the cable, you know what you're getting with a Super Nintendo stick.
It's a known quantity.
And then you also have the ability to do specialized stuff, which this will have that as well, where you can have reassign up for jump and stuff like that. So this might be a good deal. It does look awesome.
I'm a sucker for aesthetics, and having something that actually matches the color scheme of the CD32 is really cool.
Yeah. And hopefully, I'm assuming he'll have a case that's probably a more Amiga non-CD32 like at some point in the future. Speaking of cases, what a lead in, eh? Guess what? Just when you thought they were all done, it looks like on the horizon there could be a new Amiga 500 case Kickstarter. Our good and dear friends at Indie Retro News broke the story here, and having bought Amiga 500 case, which I then butchered, we know that these are in desperate need. And so if they're going to put something up, it's not the worst idea. These are the same people that did the 1200 cases, and I believe they are, I don't know if they ever shipped those key
keycaps?
I don't know if there's this particular outfit. I'm not sure they ever released this or not. I'll be honest with you. I don't know if they ever got around to it or not. So, hey, and more Amiga cases. That's great. Again, having this produced, it's got to cost some bucks. We've talked about molds, and
injection molding, and things like that.
It's crazy time. So our next story, new game. All right. So this one I just saw today, and I've never heard of this. They said it originally came out in 2014. There was some kind of marketing thing or something happened with the company where I don't know if they didn't ship very many or maybe they didn't ship any. It's a new game called The Secret of Middle City, a point-and-click adventure, and it's out for Morph OS, Mac, and the Amiga. And it's just exactly what it says it is. It's a point-and-click adventure.
I love the first bullet point is Italian humor and style.
Hey,
I don't know what Italian humor is.
Are there any funnier people than the Italians? I don't think so. They're pretty funny. It looks okay. I had a quick look at it. I mean, if you like point and click, I mean, it's not like it's not going to blow the world up, but it looks pretty good. I mean, really, graphics are only a small part of that. Most of it's the humor and stuff. It looks interesting.
Yeah, I mean, this really looks like. I played a lot of games when I was more on the Mac side that looked like this. But again, like you said, the graphics are sort of secondary to the story and the style and the humor and stuff.
Right. So it might be good. I didn't. Did you catch a price on that when you were looking it up? I didn't see anything.
€15.
Not bad.
It's available actually for the Amiga, Mac, Windows, and Morph OS.
So that's what is that? About $20, $25, something like that.
Not bad.
It's hard to get that exchange down. So, lastly, and this is one of your classic mixed bag stories here. Because when I saw it, I got real excited, and then I got less excited. So there's two new classic DOS games have been ported over to the Amiga, the AGA Amiga. And if you're a PC guy, you remember these: Blake Stone's Aliens of Gold and Planet Strike. These are two classic DOS games that I remember from the DOS days. And I use classic. I mean, they're okay. I don't. If you think about classic DOS, these are the real sort of. I'm trying to say this diplomatically. Like Commander Keen. You ever played Commander Keen? That is considered a classic DOS title. Okay, if you, I don't. I mean, it's okay, but I mean, I don't think it stands up too well with the Amiga stuff. But you know.
So this is as I pull it up here. This is a. It's like Wolfenstein.
It is. But I mean, would you call this a classic? I mean, have you ever heard of this game?
Well, classic is sort of a relative term. No.
Okay. Now, I've heard of it, but I mean, if you consider the other things that were in this genre, now you're looking at this, you're probably like, "Holy smokes, this is coming to the Amiga. We're getting the Doom clone." Well, there's a but, and the but is you have to have a 68040. 30 megahertz proc to get this bad boy up and running. So we're not going to be putting this on the Amiga 600, for example. Of course, it needs AGA as well. It requires also 4 megs fast memory, and again, you need a 6830. So you're going to have something pretty heady there. And those are your minimum requirements. It gets a little more wackadoo after that, but still kind of neat. Hey, it doesn't require Vampire, so you know you got that going for you. So. That's the long and short of that. Now let's get to the site stuff, Bo. Let me just rewind the Gambletron here. So right out of the gates, let's talk about the new article from the Dreamcatcher. He's back. I haven't got a chance to look at this one yet, but he looks at Safari Guns and its sequel, Wild Guns. Have you had a look at this yet?
No.
I don't even know if I've even heard of these games before. So this looks pretty good. I will say, just looking at the graphics here, this looks cool. I mean, it looks like my kind of game.
I want to say, wasn't Wild Guns? Wasn't that a light gun game? Yeah, this is. So this is like a point and click, like it's a first person like Operation Wolf style thing. How weird.
Yeah, I definitely had to check this out. It looks interesting. And of course, Dreamcatcher, it looks like he goes to his usual lengths. I want to give Dreamcatcher the high sign, by the way. When I was doing research for this week's main event, what should pop up but Dreamcatcher's article, and it's great. And he found tons of stuff that I didn't know about, and so I borrowed from it heavily, I might add. So if you want to, I'm telling you, we always have a featured article from DK every week, or at least one. Sometimes he does two. But you go back, I mean, his stuff is gold, and I don't know where he digs some of this information.
Well, he talks to the people directly.
Well, I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, and he gets the skinny.
He's got connections with almost everybody in the Amiga scene.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And of course, he's still got his, I believe his charity book is still available, and that's free, you know, and just make a donation, and that's a unbelievable tome of Dreamcatcher knowledge. It's all gold. There's never been anything he did that wasn't top shelf. I don't remember. He's never had a misstep.
No.
So it's always good. So moving on, another of our good and dear friend Hasifa. We love him.
We love him. He's here in the chat now.
He's here in the chat, and he put together quite a reference. I've already used this thing multiple times. The first thing I did was check to see, it's like, what have we done that's like this? When did we take, I knew we'd had a quick look at this during the thing. I had to go back and use it to do some research, but he's put together an episode reference guide. It is on everythingamiga.com, and it is a handy tool that basically tells you every show we did, has a list of every show we did, has a list of every game we covered on that show, including shows where we did multiple games.
Right.
And it's handy and dandy. But have you had a chance to use this thing yet?
It's amazing. I love having, it's so nice to have everything right there at your fingertips. So like, if I want to see Banshee, what's that? Just click on it.
Yeah,
Bam.
and it beams right over.
Right.
And it's even got the times, which is cool. I went down to see what our shortest show was. We had a show that was like 22 minutes or something like that.
Yeah, I think it was like TV Sports or something like that.
It was super duper short. I was like, man, we've gone for, and then there's a couple. Of course, we had the marathon where we went 12 hours, but we've had shows that go an hour and 40 minutes or so. Not counting the Christmas shows, all the crazy shows where you add extra time. So it's a great resource, and we really appreciate it. And I believe he said he's going to end up kind of updating as we go, which would be kind of cool. Did you have any? Did you put any videos up this week? Amiga related videos?
Boy, I don't think I did. I think that this week I was all quiet on the video front, but I did play a whole lot of rough and tumble though.
Yeah,
so.
The only video I had put up this week, I've been going through some work issues this week, so I've not been around that much. But I did put up a video for our sister show, ARG Presents. I did a video on Forbidden what was that?
That was a rifle.
Boat's got a war going off next door.
Well, I live in a secluded area, away from the city.
What did I put a video up on this week?
Cosmic ARG.
Cosmic ARG. That's right. For our show. I'm losing my mind. Just a little playthrough of that for our sister show. And we should probably mention that while we're talking about it. We do ARG Presents. It drops every Wednesday, and so far we've had a lot of fun with it. We've had some good times. It's been pretty well received, I think, and it's kind of neat that I often, as we're talking about it or doing the show, we often reference back to the Amigos. So it's just sort of now that's sort of our foundation, and there's a lot of times where things play back and forth. It's actually quite amazing the things that happen. We just recently played a game that reminded us very much of Moonstone, and having played it before, it's neat. There's a weird synergy to it that I enjoyed. You got anything else on the news front?
Well, we have one more piece of mail that you received in the physical mail.
Absolutely. I want to get to that before we get to the game. So I got an email a while back, and I mentioned this from our good buddy, the Slow Norris, and he offered to get me goodies for the 600, and I said, you don't have to do that. You don't have to do that. Well, he already sent me a bracket. SD card in, or for a compact flash card in it. He had sent me several things, and then he went and got me a memory expansion for the 600, which was awful nice. I mean, he ordered it from Amiga Kit, and by the way, I thought this was cool. It comes with I've already been using this, but now I've got a registered copy of Reload Kick, which is the thing you can use to boot to 1.3. But man, awful nice of Slow to send this over. It's weird. I'm not used to getting gifts like that. I always feel weird about it, man.
I'm used to getting GIFs myself.
Well, I know. You're such a goofball. But this is just your standard memory expansion for the 600.
It looks super cool, though.
Yeah, and it's got expansion. It's got some expansion stuff for like some other secondary stuff. But pretty neat. And there's a little expansion thing here as well. I mean, we really appreciate it. I wanted to mention on the show, I'm always, and we've talked about this. This is going to sound like the biggest load of mush. I'm always surprised that people just are so nice, and especially because we're a couple goofballs, and they are very kind to us, and we do appreciate it. So thank you, Slow, for the goodie, and thanks Gary for the machine, and thanks to everybody that's sent us software and
candy,
food, Bruno Barracuda and Folds, all these guys have sent us goodies over the years, and of course
Vebke,
and Vebke, of course. Gosh, it's funny. I just watched his video. He sent us a nice. He sent us a thing from he showed me his house and stuff, which is nice. And then our buddy. I can't remember, but I'm going to lose people out. I'm going to feel bad. But I mean, everyone that sent us stuff, or even if you just thought about it, hey, thank you very much. We appreciate it. We didn't expect to get anything. That was never an angle we even thought that would ever happen. And as we've mentioned before, everyone in the Amiga family is very nice, and they're very kind, and they're very forgiving, and they're also very tolerant of our various
tomfoolery,
stupid acts that we perpetrate on a weekly basis.
Is it time to jump in?
I think it's time
to the world of rough and tumble.
I think it's time, Bo.
All right, let's do it.
I'll lead the dance here, if I may. So this week we had a look at a game called Rough and Tumble. The full title: Rough and Tumble in the Fantasy Forest, which that long title, but it's for a little guy. So this came out in '94, so a later release, and you can tell it came on 2 discs. And the developer of this was an outfit called Wunderkind, spell it in the German. As far as I can tell, they've never done anything else. I couldn't find anything at all. I couldn't find any reference to them. I'm not sure they were even a real company. I don't know if they were just because the guys that worked on it did other stuff, but you know, that was it. Now, it was published by Renegade. Now, Renegade we've come across multiple times. Amongst their many titles were the Sensible Soccers. They published those. Gods, Fire and Ice, Elf Mania, you know, Chaos Engine, Speedball 2. They've done Renegade's been involved in a lot of stuff. The gimmick in this game, also last week when I said, hey, we're doing Rough and Tumble, that'll be great, we'll get some 2-player action going. No, that was wrong. There's not. There's no 2. I was sure this had 2 players.
Well, it's a little misleading because it's something and something else.
Right.
So it's like you play rough, I'll play tumble. Let's do it.
I remember when we played this on the brief time we played this on the charity show, right? I remember saying, wow, we should get another joystick and really go to work on this. And I think you were like, yeah, that'll be great. And we're stupid. And then, of course, you did a playthrough once where you had the name wrong. And then I had trouble with the name over and over. I kept wanting to call it Rough and Ready. And there's another game called that.
Yep.
You know, so it's like, drove you nuts. So the guys that worked on this, really, there's only a few guys that really worked that did the most of the heavy lifting on it. The artist... and the coder, I should say, was a guy named Jason Perkins. Now, he did Time Machine on the Amiga, but he's also responsible for Thing on a Spring, Monty on the Run, and Apocalypse. Those are pretty popular games. Thing on a Spring, I've never played it, but I've heard about it. You know, a lot of people talk about it. The graphics were done by a fellow named Robin Levy. He did Last Ninja 3, Myth, and Putty. And the music was done by a fellow who actually has done quite a bit of stuff named Jason Page. He's done Fire and Ice, which we keep hearing about. That's another we've got to pick up. Flight of the Amazon Queen, which we've heard a lot about that one. Iron Man Stewart. We love that game, the arcade version anyway. And he did the Sensible Soccers, Iridium. He did a bunch of stuff. So this is a platformer. It runs on the ECS and the OCS, so it's good to go. It looks great for a game that will work on that original hardware. It's another game where you got some guys that got together that knew what they were doing, and they squeezed every molecule they could out of the available hardware. Again, this is running on something that was effectively released in '85, and so it for that time period, it looks remarkable in my opinion. So it's a platforming game where you play a guy named Rough Rogers. You're a little kid. And the gimmick on this is you're playing at a park, and your marble is going to like a rabbit hole, and you go down and get them, and basically you go in another world. And the guy in the world challenges you to come stop him, effectively. And you're going around trying to gather up your marbles. So effectively, you've lost your marbles. You know, get it?
I get it.
Yeah. Come on, you're not laughing, folks. Come on, man. So this game is split into 16 levels. And they're split, basically, there are 4 levels that each have 4 stages.
Okay.
And there's a boss, all right? The guy you play is Rough. He's a little kid, and he looks kind of cute. And then he has a massive death gun that he carries around. And has no qualms about killing. So really, most of what you're killing in this are like these metal-headed robots. So... You have multiple like heart containers, sort of like a Addams Family, right? I believe that's how they did it. Where you can, I think you can get 1 or 2 more as the game goes on. I'm not 100%. I think you can get up to, I think it's at 5. You can
I think 5.
I never got that many. I can tell you that right now. This game's interesting in a lot of ways. So you're thinking to yourself, okay, it's a game where you run and gun, all right? It is, and there are collectibles out the yin yang. It's your standard Amiga fare. This game is if you ever asked yourself what would happen if an excellent gaming house combined Turrican and Zool, and with a little Super Frog in there, this is sort of what you would get. You'll recall that in Zool, you have to have a certain amount of items collected before the door unlocks, right? This game is exactly like that with a twist. So you have 3 different colored marbles that you have to collect. And you have a set amount of these. At the top, it's listed. They're the 3 colors, and above them there will be numbers. And you have to collect whatever the number is of those marbles to open the escape. So even if you come right up to the exit, if you don't have enough marbles, it just stays shut. You're boned. Now, there's no time limit, so you can, and the enemies don't respawn. So you can pretty much bebop around, forever looking for these marbles. And then when you get enough marbles, the little number above them will count down until it says okay. Then you're ready to go.
Which is the right way to go, by the way. This game it fixes so many of the things that are wrong with so many other platformers. Like if you're going to make something that encourages exploration, don't hamper that by having a time limit. If you want to have a certain number of collectibles before you're allowed to go on, that's fine. Let somebody have the time to explore the stage and get what they need.
I have to agree with you on that. And it makes you, you have no choice but to go through these levels in their entirety. They're large levels, by the way. And you have to, and the way this game has a lot more. When I said this was like if Turrican and Zool had a kid, also one thing to consider is that unlike those 2 games, which I know Turrican 2 is particularly, people love it, but one of the problems I had with it was just getting lost. The guys that put this together did a good job, and I'll give them credit where credit's due, of putting the levels together in a way that you need to explore them all, but it doesn't get super duper repetitive going over this. It can be if you miss what you're after. But
you never run into a situation like you do in, say, Lionheart, where you work your way up, and this is a completely fair criticism. You work your way up this ladder of different platforms, and then you get knocked off by an enemy, and you have to start negotiating your way back up again. That doesn't happen that much in this game.
Well, although you can't just not get knocked off and die, which that does happen. One thing about this game that differentiates it from a lot of other games, and this is another good programming trick, one of the problems that a lot of these games had are blind jumps. And there was actually, they had that in mind when they made the game, and they actually made it to where that doesn't happen. The screen intelligently scrolls downward in a position where you're going to need to jump. So you don't have to jump down into a hole and hope, boy, I hope there's not a spear down there. You will know.
Yeah.
That's a big plus.
I'm going to hold off on my thoughts for a while.
So, as I mentioned, you go through the game, and you're collecting these marbles. That's not all there is to collect. There's plenty of other stuff, including stuff to jack up your gun. Right, your gun's pretty basic at first. You can get lasers, you can get flamethrowers, you can get missiles. There's all sorts of stuff you can pick up to enhance your gun. And you're going to need a lot of that stuff because the bad guys in this are actually, even the basic ones are kind of tough. They're all sort of plays on the theme of these kind of robots. The first level, for example, you've got robots that have like looks like elephant guns or something, and they're wearing like World War I helmets, like British World War I helmets.
Doughboy helmets.
Yeah. I should mention that again, you've got 4 levels, and so the first level, which you start off on, is a forest level. Again, the bad guys in this are all cute. The good guys cute. It's a cute game for something as violent as it is. And the bad guys have these and what it reminded me of was sort of like Gauntlet. I don't know if it's a close, the bad guy generator.
They're like spawning areas.
And you basically, when you come across with these things, you just sit there and blow the bad guys away until they just stop producing bad guys. So, which is exactly like Gauntlet. That was an interesting twist. At least that's one way there's no more bad guys coming.
Right.
Because there's a little light on these things, and when it goes off, that means that they're out of bad guys. The bees, there are bees that come out on stage 3. One thing you're going to learn is in this game is that these different, if there are 4 different main stages, each has the 4 levels, and in each stage, the bad guys are going to be pretty much all the same with a few added as you go, right? So on the first level, you're going to see these the metal soldiers, and with the whole time, the little flying guys, there's these little metal guys that have like a helicopter blade on them. You're going to see those the whole time. But they add a few things. So on the third level, I think it is, they add bees. These bees drove me nuts. I don't know if you had any luck with them. I hated them. They kill me. That always used to drive me nuts.
I found that I did better just avoiding them, just running away, than trying to kill them.
Yeah, if you try to actually go after them, they will get you. Stage 1 ends with what I consider the coolest end boss in the whole game, frankly, which was this mechanical owl. Did you get that far?
Well, I saw it on a playthrough.
I
didn't get that far.
I got that far.
Really?
And that was me.
I would love, and I just didn't find one, to find a version with a trainer that I could just turn on infinite lives, because I would love to explore and play through this whole game.
I just went and got all. This game uses save codes, a la the consoles, and so I just went and got all the codes. And so trust me when I tell you, I couldn't get past the first part of the next area. But I did get past the owl, and then the bad guy. At least this particular guy wasn't that tough. I knocked him out pretty quick, but he was cool looking. I will say that. But one thing that I will say is as a criticism is, by the time you get through the fourth level, of this you're kind of tired of seeing the same batch of guys. I mean, like they add in some different wrinkles to it, but you sort of end up seeing the same guys, over and over. The second level is real tricky, and it's the underground area, like the mines, basically. And so this level, some surfaces are slippery, and there's also spiders down here, bats, all the crap you hate that are mine.
Yeah.
But one thing this area has, this whole level has water. Now your guy could just go right in and swim around. He doesn't breathe, I guess. But I don't know what it is about water levels, man. They're always super duper tough. There's a lot of cool stuff on this level visually. They do a good job with depth down there, like shadowing stuff to be in the background. I mean, all the levels have it. There's a certain amount of parallax or multiple levels, but I mean, they do. I thought it's not Shadow of the Beast good in terms of the way they did that, but I mean, graphically, it's probably a lot better in some ways.
Not even close.
Oh, please, come on.
Shadow of the Beast. You're not even going to sit here and tell me that Shadow of the Beast looks better than this game in any way.
Yeah, I think they did a better job in the caverns. It's a different type of level. I mean, this is cartoony. It's a different type of.
Shadow of the Beast is crap.
Well, oh man, I'm not going to go down that road with you, Boat. Something else they had that was neat, and this kind of after the second level, you see this all throughout the game. There are these, and I love the way they did it. It's got a lot of style and panache. It's when they have these ladders that when you shoot them, they basically kind of shoot up and they kind of rotate out. And you can climb them, and they look really cool.
Yeah, I love that.
I thought that was kind of a neat effect. They add in another callback to Lionheart. They add in destructible walls down there, and when you're in those levels, and so there's, in fact, I think it's the second.
I'm sure that was what they were thinking of when they programmed it. Let's call back to Lionheart, boys. Let's put in the destructible walls. No other game has that.
That's what it reminded me of, because Lionheart's got that. But I mean, it's hidden.
Super Frog's got that too.
Hidden in these walls were like, sometimes there'd be stuff place you had to go. Sometimes there'd be money. Sometimes there'd be whatever. But I thought that was interesting, kind of a gimmick. And then on the boss of that stage is a giant. How would you describe this guy? Like a robotic snail with a fang?
That sounds pretty good.
I mean, I don't know. It's just some kind of weird thing. And I didn't get that far, but he didn't seem that tough to me. So there's that. And then the next level is a factory level. I didn't really get into this level that much. I mean, I played it, but I didn't think they were as cool looking. It was okay. Don't get me wrong. But man, super tough. A lot of these levels have, this is when they start with the real tough rotating platforms, that shtick a la Mario. I mean, but what they do in this that's a real brutal is they'll add like another rotating part that's like a mace.
Yeah, and it can just get right into you, yeah.
And of course you've got, enemies galore. There's all kinds of crazy stuff. Sometimes there's lightning shooting down from the ceiling. But one thing about the factory level is it's sort of all the level. It's the most same of all the little sub levels. They're all sort of the same. The last guy in this is sort of this like kind of a UFO that looks sort of like a flying helmet. I guess it's again I thought he was pretty lame. After the owl, the bad guys get kind of boring. And then the last level is the Destink's castle, the bad guy's castle. It looks good. I liked it. It's very Godsy looking to me. The graphics in that area, it looks a lot like Gods to me, which that's not a bad thing. In that one, a lot of bad guys look like knights. There's spiked walls. There's tons and tons of rats. I don't know how anybody could get past this stuff. I'll be honest with you. I was getting smashed. I mean, quick. As soon as I get on the level, I'd get mauled. These little robot wizards that sort of teleport in. They throw these magical balls at you. That was a pain in the butt. And then the bad guy on this thing is a giant. It was just the main bad guy. It's a guy in a big helicopter. Did you see this?
Kind of like Robotnik.
It's not. This is pretty generic looking. I mean, the bosses in this are sort of underwhelming to me. And you just kind of knock him out. Wham, bam, Bob's your uncle. And then at the end of the game, which of course I didn't get this far, but I watched a guy get there. It just simply says like game over, and it shows your guy giving like the thumbs up. So I mean, it's the most disappointing ending I've seen, and we've seen some bad ones, but in this one, just like it literally just pops.
Is
up.
Is it worse than the Jim Power and Mutant Planet ending?
Yes, because Jim Power at least had the chick.
Yeah, the bewildered chick.
The chick picture. She's just like, oh god, I gotta go with this guy. This had nothing. It had rough going like, meh. You know, it's like, that's not that good. You know, so, It didn't do it. Before I drone on and on, your thoughts on some of this stuff?
This is probably the best game of this is the best sort of run and gun game I've played on the Amiga. It's the only game that I've played that I feel like really controls as well as a console game. It doesn't have any of that stiffness or weirdness that so many Amiga run and gun titles have. The way that the camera moves to show you where you're going. This is like programming 101 on a console platformer, but the Amiga, so many Amiga games don't do that and make you jump into the ether. The graphics are fantastic. I mean, this wouldn't look out of place on a Neo Geo. The gun, when you're firing the gun, the different upgrades of the gun, it looks awesome, and you really feel powerful. With each upgrade that you get, you slice through those enemies like butter, and it just feels so good. I was very impressed with this game. My main criticism, just like you said, is the lack of variety in the enemies. I wish that they would have made, just different non-robotic enemies, if they would have just spiced things up a little bit there. But I have very few negative things to say about this game.
Now, before I speak, I want you to promise not to get mad.
I'm already getting ready to flip the table.
Don't flip
whatever
the table.
You say.
Now, don't get me wrong. First of all, I agree with a lot of what you said. This game clearly was programmed by people that not only knew what they were doing, but had a knack for level design. There's some of the things you have even have inertia that you can get knocked back a little bit, which is that's something that's above and beyond. I like a lot of the things about it. That said, I don't think it's quite on the Neo Geo level. It's somewhere, to me, this is somewhere maybe like a TurboGrafx CD type game. I think that's probably closer to what you'd be looking at in terms of the way it looks. It's really hard. It's another one of these games that's really hard to play. I didn't enjoy it as much as I enjoyed playing something like. I hate to say it, but if it was me, I would play Lionheart before this, or I would also play like Addams Family, where I felt like I had a better shot at this. Some of this is just because I'm not good at this sort of gun game, so I'm not criticizing the game for that. Just I enjoy games that are easier. This game's really tough. The robotic guys do get irritating after a while. And I wish they had put some variety in. That does let the game down somewhat. I mean, don't get me wrong, a lot of games do it, right? The bosses were not that creative. I wish they would put a little more thought into it. And from what I read, there had been actually 24 levels planned, and then they didn't make them. I think these guys realized that they were boned. They had planned to release this on multiple systems. It didn't happen. This is an Amiga-only title. And I would wager that would explain some of the shortcomings. And we've talked about this with other games where they're like the bottom's dropping out of the Amiga, and we're going to have to get out now and try to make some money on this thing. And this being a late release, and again, this company never did anything else. This screams like that's exactly what happened. They probably ran out of time. They had more grandiose plans than what happened. All that said, it's definitely a fun title. It's definitely one of the top titles on the Amiga. And this, I can't think of one that's a whole lot better. You know, I mean, if you're going to classify this with like the Turrican 2s and stuff like that, I mean, I think it can sit fairly comfortably with them in a lot of ways. I'm not a huge fan of the title character, to be honest with you. Again, he's not as annoying as the caveman jerk character.
You've just got a thing against title characters. I don't think we've ever played a game that you like the title character except for Lame-O Lionheart.
Oh, how dare you! I like Gomez. He was cool. And I like a lot of title characters. I guess the cutesy genre is not necessarily my bag.
It is kind of a weird juxtaposition to have this like little kid with a huge death gun, as you said. It is kind of strange.
This is another one of those movies. This is just like your typical. This would be perfect for a console. There's no doubt about it. It's very console-y in a way, but there's still plenty of Amiga in it. You know, there's too much stuff to collect. Again, how many times have we said that? It just.
Yeah, that is.
We need all these marbles plus all this other stuff that makes the screen explode. There's all this crazy stuff. You can't tell what you're getting a lot of times.
Yeah.
You know.
I think that's fair.
You know, and so I had that problem with it. Even the graphic artist was interviewed and said, "Listen, the game is reasonably plotless." and it's all
sell it, baby.
Well, I mean, it has no. The plot is go fight the bad guy. That's the plot. I mean, I'm not saying all these games have to have a plot, but I mean, a token effort.
At least they tied in the collectibles with the story. I mean, Zool didn't even do that. It's like, here's a whole bunch of candy.
Now, let's be fair. This is better than Zool.
Absolutely.
And better than Zool 2. And better than Super Frog.
Yeah.
I don't even put those games in this. I mean, this game is absolutely in the upper plateau of Amiga titles of this type.
Yeah, and really, I mean, it's really unfair to compare it to a game like Addams Family or Lionheart. This is really the only thing that you can really compare this to. I think that we've played so far is Turrican, where it's a really combat-heavy, platforming game.
Right. The fact that this thing has a password system is another cheap. Way of knowing that this probably was destined to go on something besides the Amiga. I think that was. I mean, I don't know why else you would use a password system on the Amiga. It doesn't really make that much sense. The fact that this shipped on 2 discs is pretty astounding for the amount of content it has. Which that also could have played into why they didn't include more an ending or more, tons more music or tons more, video or anything like that, or an opening of any sort.
I think that this game. I mean, the name itself is so strange and stupid that it would put me off. Like if there was like, we just got this game in called Rough and Tumble, do you want to buy it? I'd be like, no. I want nothing to do with a game named that.
I don't think the name's that bad, but to me, and of course my faux pas from last week, this sounds like a game where you should have 2 people playing at once.
Well, to me it sounds like a puzzle game where you've got 2 people, like we talked about Head Over Heels last week or something like that. Like this, the type of game that this is and the title just don't match at all.
Well, they could have done better. I mean, again, to me, it sounds, when you have an in there, that tells me there's another guy. Unless it's like Run and Gun, and even that had multiple players. It was a basketball game, right? So to me, it sounds like something that would have multiple people in it.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's a lot of, like I said, the level variety. The levels are well done, but the variety of what's going on in the levels is not. I mean, they add some certain elements, but it's not like, let's say, I hate to go down this road. It's not like, say, a Mario or something. There's really amazing differences in the levels. I mean, they're well done. They're pretty clever. There's one level on it's the second to last stage where you just show up and all you do is just collect there's no enemies at all. You just collect gold and stuff. That's the whole level. Which I thought that's not even a level. That's sort of a cheat. When they put that in, so that's kind of, and I'm not going to hold it against them. It's kind of weird, maybe there was like, let's get something in here. But I mean, I didn't think the game felt cheap, which a lot of those games do. Having the ability to scroll down. I mean, having the scrolling on this for a game like this is the best.
Yeah.
This is the best.
And in a game,
it's everything.
And in a game like this, that's 99% of the game is being able to see where you're going and what you need to shoot at. And
for once, you've got a character that's not real huge, and so shooting rats and these little ankle biters isn't super tough, which is nice. This game was received very well, actually. CU Amiga gave it a 92. Hey, Amiga Joker, I know you're begging. 91%, and they certified it Amiga Joker Mega Hit.
Wow, I think that's the first game we've ever had that was an Amiga Joker Mega Hit.
I've never heard of that either until I read this. It got an 89 from Amiga Computing, Amiga Format 88, so a lot between 91 and 87.
Pretty good. Pretty good.
That's about as good as you're going to get. But of course, also this was 94. So they were probably like, "Holy crap!
Yeah.
Thank you, sweet Lord,
right.
for this gift that came down upon us." I looked this thing up on the old eBay, and break out the checkbook, yo! It ain't coming cheap. Again, this game, I'm guessing, probably didn't sell that many copies, and so you have inflated prices. There's a guy in Canada selling this for 102 American dollar bills, or best offer. I would not offer that much, but hey, there's a dude in Germany selling it for 85, and that's straight up money. That's U.S. And the discs in France, you're paying somewhere between 22 and 33 bucks for the discs.
Wow.
So that's a lot of money.
Very desirable title.
Let me rephrase it. Someone wants you to pay that.
Right.
Whether you choose to pay it or not is your business. But overall, a good title. It's not perfect, but it's very well done. I like a game where they show a lot of polish.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing this shows is there's a lot of polish. Someone sat down and thought about it. They didn't just spew collectibles all over the screen and just randomly make levels up, which that goes a long way with me.
Yeah, yeah. All right, well, as we wrap up the show, I'd just like to remind everyone that you can follow Amigos on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and the Google+.
Yes.
And don't forget, if you are hanging out on your own or hanging out with your family and you want to get away from your family on Friday night, you can tune in and watch Amigos live in the YouTube chat, just like Pishbot and Walking the Cow and Henrik Henderson and just a whole ton of people are hanging out. Duncan Styles. What else? There's tons of people in the chat with us right now. So thank you so much for Chris Hasifa. Thank you for hanging out with us. Pixels at Dawn. We really appreciate it. Join the party. Before we go, of course, we got to thank our Patreon supporters that make all this stuff happen.
They've been burning up the chat this week, by the way.
Yeah, and so I've got kind of a new idea that what we're going to do. We're going to play a little game with the Patreon song. Okay, so what the game is you've got to guess the Patreon song.
Oh man,
okay,
this is going to go down hard.
So I am going to play the song, and then you're going to guess it. And if you would like to submit an answer, you can email. Get this is the important bit. John@amigospodcast.com. That will go straight to me. And make sure to include your favorite Amigos episode. That has something to do with the prize that you will receive. Also include your mailing address, as in your physical mailing address, like the place where I can send something to, because that is part of your prize.
Very good.
So, again, John@amigospodcast.com.
That's Boat's maiden name.
Yes. All right. So, there we go. Get the retro roulette wheel out of the way.
What is that?
All right. Donald Tyler, Level Lord, John Matthew Perrone, Ricky DeRocha, Creepy Dead Boy, Figgy CTZ, the Slow Norris, Stefan Sagan Mortensen, Edvin Dylan Blindo 75, Christopher Hussall, Rabbi Abbott, Chris Foltz, Dreamcatcher, Lauren Giroux, Bram Bedke, Bryn Dowdy, Lane Denson, Adam Battersby, O'Brien's Retro and Vintage, C. Brian Jones, Gary Hucker, Paul Harrington, Duncan Styles, Anthony Jarvis, Tapes from the Crib, Josh Mann, Will Williams, Adam Patterson, Bradley, Jonas Rulo, THT, Eric Nelson, Kid Tommy, Homestead, Daniel Bingston, Brutal Barracuda, Jason Warnes, Pix Alexis at Dawn, Darren Coles, Coben, Boyman.
Jeez, that was a long one. We're going to start. You're going to cover like Stairway to Heaven or something to get all these names in. If they get any more.
All right, so if you think you know the answer, again, John at AmigosPodcast.com. I will choose a winner randomly. So if you're listening to this after the fact, as long as you listen to it before next week's episode, we'll say the cutoff will be next. You got to send it in before midnight on Wednesday night next week.
Midnight where? Here?
Yeah.
All right.
Wherever here is for you, that's where it is.
Eastern time.
So next Wednesday, the 21st at midnight Eastern time is the cutoff to win the special. And I'll announce what the prize is next week. I need the first one before we can get the ball rolling. So, all right, Aaron. Next week we have a game chosen already. Another Amigos game selection member podcast person has already. Boy, that was a lot of words.
I was wondering where you were going with that.
Amigos game selection committee member on Patreon has chosen for us. We will play next week Typhoon Thompson.
I have no idea what that is. I've never heard of it. Is that a person?
It's a person, it's a place, it's a thing, and an idea.
Wow. Should be the best game ever.
It should be. All right, guys, we will see you then. Until next time, adios. All right.
I've never heard of that.
Typhoon Thompson, it's a classic.
I'm sitting right here. I've got no idea what that song was. I couldn't tell you in a million years.
Well, I'm not going to tell you either. There's going to be do you realize there's lots of songs out there that people know that you might not know?
No, I don't realize that.
Because sometimes I wonder if you realize that.
I don't believe you. Well, let's start. Is this the post show?
This is the post show.
Hi, everybody. By the way, you had to write the lyrics down this week, and you still botched Battersby Name with Bradley.
Man, you try and do this.
Hell no. I don't know how you can even read that. It was so small.
I've got to
Why did you make it hard on yourself?
Because
you made the font bigger.
How could I magically scroll the screen while I'm playing guitar?
Put your nose down there and do it.
Yeah.
Or put the keyboard on the floor and use your toe.
Yeah. So
you should have like a teleprompter.
That would be great. I would love to have a teleprompter.
There's a program for the computer that will do the exact same thing. There's got to be one.
There probably is, but then you have to select this. You realize that there's actually a teleprompter operator, right? It doesn't just work on its own.
No, you don't need that guy. Just do it automatically. It just scrolls.
At whatever speed it feels like.
That's right.
I can see you've thought this through.
Yeah. Oh, I can just hold up cue cards like in the Bob Dylan video.
That would be great.
John is in the basement, mixing up the medicine. I just throw them off. Mm-hmm. I could be part of your act, going tour.
You could.
When we play live, that'll be a gimmick. I'll just throw the cards off.
Do you have a favorite Bob Dylan song?
I do. I do
Go
have
on.
one. Tangled Up in Blue.
That's a good one.
One of my all-time favorite songs from anyone. Love that song. Love it. Bob Dylan was a acquired taste. I loved the covers of his songs, but didn't like his. And something clicked one day, and I just like, this is better than the cover. And so yeah, I like Dylan.
Me too. I've got controversial picks. My favorite album of his is actually his country album, Nashville Skyline. It's the one with Lay Lady Lay on it. And he doesn't sound like himself on that record. He
sounds better.
Yeah, he tries to actually sing.
My buddy told me that before he became famous, Bob Dylan could actually sing like a normal person. But he just started singing like that to get to what he got over.
When you've got a shtick, you gotta go with it.
Here I am.
Yeah.
I'm a walking shtick. That's it. Beat down loser. That's me.
So what's new in the world?
Man.
What's new in the world of pro wrestling these days?
Who knows? I haven't had a chance to look at pro wrestling. I'm getting killed.
You haven't been watching the network
out there? No.
You should set up a tablet or something in your truck or your car or whatever the state gives you to drive around in. Just play the network all the time.
I call it the Fun Bus.
The Fun Bus.
It's a 200,000-mile extended van.
Is it like the
Old
van in the
school.
Chevy Van song? Baby,
that's all right with me. Love that song too.
Me too.
Love that one. But no, it's not nearly that. There's not. Trust me, there ain't
Shag
no one
carpet
making
in the
love
back.
in that Shaggy van. Trust me on that. You wouldn't want to do anything in that van. You wouldn't even want to kidnap somebody in it. It's no good. I mean, it might not make it anywhere. It's just it gets me around to these various sites of interest in the.
So I announced this. I announced this already on the in the Discord. Which, speaking of which, if you're still listening in the chat,
we should have pushed the Discord.
Yeah, we should.
I set you up, but you didn't say anything.
Well, I just forgot. I'm sorry.
Dadgummit.
But
I love the Discord.
yeah, it's great.
Whenever no one's talked on it, I'm sad.
Yeah, me too. Like I love seeing that little red thing.
I want people to, because I don't have to talk. I just have to read what they're saying. I'm like, oh, that's nice.
Patreon people that are listening right now, if you haven't already got on the Discord, then send me a message and let me know, and I'll give you a link to get on the Discord, because you need to join the party.
It's enriched my life.
Yeah, it really is. It's great.
I will say the Discord, I was sad though at one point when we started that new music channel.
The Funky Tunes.
No one commented on that awesome disco version.
The Ozark Mountain Daredevils.
No, not that. By the way, I told you that was a real band.
Yeah.
Do you remember them now?
No, but I mean, I believe that they are now.
Did you listen to my disco version?
I listened to it when you put it on Facebook.
I Put a Spell on You.
Yeah. In fact, I think I liked it on Facebook.
It was awesome. I shared it after I found it there.
The original version, the guy
Eddie Johns.
Yeah, when he sings, he looks weird. He's like putting a spell on you
Oh,
with his
that
eyes.
guy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
crazy
original
Screaming
guy.
Jay Hawkins?
Yeah, Screaming Jay Hawkins.
He's out of his mind.
Well.
That's why. Yeah. He toured for years, and his gimmick was "I'm an insane man," and he was.
Again, if you got a good gimmick,
He's got a couple versions of that, and all of them are him just going nuts.
I think he emerges out of a coffin in one of them. Yeah,
he's crazy. I'd like to see Eddie Johnson's, but it's funny. Eddie Johnson, the guy that sang that version I put up, he doesn't exist. Like, he only had 2 songs I could find. He had "I Put a Spell on You," and then he's got another song called "I Put Another Spell on You," or more spell.
I put another spell on you.
It's like the Addams Family. Whoop! There it is, the Addams Family. There it is. It's like that. It's like I've got one song, so all I can do is make a sequel to that song, and that never works. It's never worked one time.
I think it's funny how you put "Whoop, There It Is" and the Addams Family together.
No, that's the song.
No, you're thinking about
Whoop,
the Addams.
The Addams Family. There it is.
No, you're thinking about the Addams Groove by MC Hammer.
No,
They do what they want.
No.
There was no "Whoop, There It Is" for the Addams Family.
Remember the guys that did "Whoop, There It Is"? I can't remember the name of the band.
Yeah, tag team.
They did a song for the Addams Family.
I guarantee you that's not correct.
I know, I've heard it, and there's a video for it.
There it is, Addams Family.
Bam.
All right, you're right.
Don't ever doubt me.
I'll never doubt you again.
Play
I cannot
some of that
believe
right now.
Okay.
Just get to the chorus. All you need to hear is the chorus. I'm sorry, people at home, but
Oh, I missed it.
now, anything you want to say to me now?
Okay.
Okay.
I bow to your, seriously, I bow to you. I had no idea that existed. That is frightening.
It is god-awful. You should never do that.
I can't believe we just need to say the Addams Family and then play "Whoop, There It Is."
That's all you need to do.
That's great.
That's all you need to do.
Oh, man.
Thank God the Who Let the Dogs guys did this. Who Let the Dogs Out? Addams Family did. There they is.
Man.
That made me think I could have a best-selling record. The second that came out, I'm like, oh yeah.
I believe that looked like from the Addams Family Values movie, which was not good.
That's when you learned that tag team. They were the tag team was the Bulky Brothers, the Jobbers from the Rock Championship. They should never seen again.
Remember, there were 2 songs called "Whoop, There It Is" too. They both came out around the same time.
I only heard the one.
Yeah,
so I'll take your word for that.
I was in middle school when that thing was all going down. So
man, those were stupid times.
Yeah.
The early days of rap, it was either really great or the worst crap you. There was that stage where where white people got into it, and that's when it went south.
Where do you stand on the Fat Boys?
Well, they're part of that. To be honest,
that's what I'm talking about.
Because I kind of like the Fat Boys.
They teamed up with the Beach Boys to do.
Yeah, that was god awful. I know exactly the song you're talking about. There was no.
I had that cassette.
The Fat Boys were like, you had that original, Sugar Hill Gang or whatever, all those guys.
Right.
And then there was something happened, right, in the mid '80s where people were like, "Oh, let's commercialize the crap out of this." And then you had your MC Hammers and your Vanilla Ices, and the Fat Boys are right there getting some, and some of these other guys. And so then you had what is crap rap. I mean, it's really bad. some of it's even catchy. But you know, like who's the guy that did Funky Cole Medina and all that stuff? He had some. You know what I'm talking about?
No.
You don't
Tell me about Funky Cole Medina.
You never heard that song?
What is Cole Medina?
Funky Cold Medina.
Oh, okay.
No, you never heard that. Let's do the wild thing. Wild thing. The same guy.
Okay, but I haven't heard of it.
My God, it's funny because things that I just assumed you would know, you don't know.
Right.
It's the damnedest thing, Boat.
It's almost like I'm 15 to 30 years younger than you.
Well, I mean, it's pretty common knowledge.
Funky Cole Medina?
Yeah, that was a pretty big hit song.
Quick question for the chat. Have you heard of Funky Cold Medina?
Or Wild Thing. Let's do the wild thing.
I know that song, Wild Thing. They used to play it at Skate Arena.
No, not Wild Thing. You make my
No,
heart
not
singing.
I know what you're talking about.
Somebody's going to bail me out here.
All right, yeah, they've all heard of it.
Okay, thank you. See, well, you're really shooting blanks today.
I know.
Finally, I'm winning at some
You're
of the
winning.
stuff. I'm finally winning. Now, if you were quizzing me on jazz or something, I'd be boned.
We'll leave jazz talk for the next thrilling pre-show episode.
Oh God, man, get my pillow ready for that, Chad. Holy gosh.
So, man, we've really come a long way from how I started the sentence. So I told everybody about this in the Discord, but I might as well talk about it on the post show. So the boat challenge, it's over. I failed the boat challenge. I laughed
too. And even though you tried to, one of the guys helped you with the loophole.
Yeah, there's no loophole. There's no getting out of this one.
Now,
I bought a CD.
What really infuriates me, by that I mean amuses me, but is the fact that you gave up the boat challenge on something you've had locally sitting here for all this time.
I know.
Some guy got guilt-ridden.
I know.
Could you guilt hold out for another 8 months and you could have just paid him then?
I started this in November, so I figure, 4 months, not a bad run. But now that the boat challenge is over, though, I bought like 16,000 things. Like all of that backup, like, oh, I want to buy this as soon as the boat challenge is over.
And we're not even out of February, Boat.
No, I failed the boat challenge.
And you let all your little boatsters down.
Sorry, little guys.
The little tugboats everywhere. The guys that follow you blindly. It's funny. You got that article published about you, and then bam, right off the boat.
Yeah,
that's okay though, man. Don't feel bad. I'm going to be forced to take the boat challenge because I've got.
You can carry on the mantle.
I've got so little. See, I'm in the reverse boat challenge. I don't want to spend money on things, but they just keep making me do it. But the furnace, the furnace.
The furnace is already installed, though, right? You already got it.
I took a bath on that, though, man. You know how much that thing cost?
$7,000, right?
No, it was more. It was like $7,800.
What?
Dude.
How is it that expensive?
I've got for.
Is it like a weird gas thing?
It's my house has gas heat,
right,
and electric air.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to get this, and it's an outdoor unit. So of course.
Yeah, I'm sure it was crazy.
I couldn't just shove a furnace in there and be like, here you go, like $250. No,
right.
I was had to pay a ton. They're killing me on that stuff.
How did you contract that out? Did you shop around?
I did, and I went with the people that I hated.
Why?
Because the people I didn't hate were charging me a lot more. And I was like, well, time to bring in the jerks.
You should get the guy that put that fence in for you to ask him if he has any furnaces in his garage.
By the way, that's just not some dude. Those guys are working for everybody. Banks.
Really?
McDonald's, everybody else.
I thought it was just some guy, like Craigslist guy.
No, Bo. No. You've got to get that stuff. Listen, you can't cheap out. Even I can't cheap on everything. Especially something like a furnace. Like, I got a 10-year warranty on this sucker. Because what happens if, like, Big Jimbo's all-night furnace supply, he installs one of these things, and like 2 months in, the thing explodes. And not to mention you can get killed.
Yeah.
Because there's gas involved.
That's not good.
Yeah. So that was a brutal turn. Let me talk now. Let's go on to a brighter subject here. This new Raspberry Retro Pi build I've got. It's quite good, and you need to jump in.
So tell me about what's on it.
Well, it's got, among other things, it's got some oddball stuff. It's got Game & Watch, which is real bizarre.
That's neat.
It's got a full Vectric setup on it. It's got a bunch of hacks for systems. It's pretty good.
Let me ask you this. Have you tried to hook up the Pi through... Yeah, you have, because you did it already. Through your Chinese HDMI capture
That thing is garbage.
I thought you loved it.
No, I didn't. I never loved it. I endured it. But
what's wrong with it?
It just doesn't work very well, especially with audio. It's got a real problem. So what I've done is I've rigged this thing up. Of course, I've got your
little SD card
the Commodore 64 retro system I
right.
built. I've got it wired up with the jacks to go into my little gizmo that I got from you, the little video input that we always use, and it looks fine, plays fine, and it sounds good. And so that's going to be the ipso fact, especially with the new show. I'm going to have something to use, and it works well. And so that's and also it's mobile. I can take it anywhere. But I like the new build. It's really good. I just added a bunch of Laserdisc stuff to it, so I'm working on it. But Windows, in their infinite wisdom, just put out a patch that made it so I can't access the Raspberry Pi on the network. So I've had to start using an FTP service to do it.
Oh, I've always used FTP. I didn't realize there was another way you could do it.
Oh, yeah. I hate Windows 10. Have I mentioned that?
You have, several times.
People think, well, you hate Apple, and they're right. But I hate Microsoft, too. You talk about... They said, hey, we've got more money than God, but look, Apple's got more money than super God. Let's do what they're doing. And they're putting the screws to people, buddy.
They are.
They're just installing stuff randomly on your machine through updates and not telling you. People, like one day you're looking on your computer, all of a sudden there's a Facebook app. Well, where the hell did that come from? They're like, oh, look, added bonus. Like, and if you don't use it, it starts bugging you. Hey, have you used the Facebook app that we installed? No. What? I want that.
Yeah.
What else can I hate? Keep them coming. I got plenty.
So, but you fixed my computer. You know,
Yeah.
So for those of you that don't know, which is everybody because we've never talked about it, my main computer went down. I thought it was because there was a weird thing rattling around in the case, but it wasn't. There was the memory was unseated, the RAM was unseated.
Here's the thing. The second I looked at what that computer was, I knew what was wrong. It was a
a
crummy
gateway?
old
Yeah.
junky gateway. All right. I don't know how. I don't know how much Gateway has infiltrated our friends overseas, but of course Gateway was purchased a while back by HP, I believe it was.
I thought Dell bought Gateway.
It was one of the I don't know. I think it was HP that bought them.
Okay.
It doesn't matter because all these companies are garbage. So anyway, HPs or Gateways are notorious for being crap. And I knew from what you were telling me, I was like, that's got to be crap. I've never heard that ever happened, ever. And so I opened it up, and when I turned it on and I heard it beeping, I was like, I knew exactly what was wrong with it. And I reseated the RAM, and it came right up.
Yeah.
And then I was baffled. I was like, how in God's name did this hard drive get zapped? The hard drive completely blank. And then, of course, you'd failed to tell me that you'd erased the hard drive for some reason.
I figured that, my first thought was the computer's dead. I'm just going to pull the drive, copy everything over, wipe the drive, and then toss it in the trash.
Bo, your spontaneity has once again got the better of you.
Yeah.
Because you do this all the time.
Yeah.
You make instant snap decisions and you just act.
Yeah.
Just like a crazy man. I'm going to go for it. You got to take some time.
I know.
Ponder.
I know. I should have known that you'd be able to fix it immediately. But
Well, yeah. And I did.
You did.
But now you've got a computer in my car that has no stuff on it.
Well, no, I'll just, I'll come.
I couldn't find any copies of Windows, but I didn't have time to do it with it anyway.
That's fine. Yeah, I'll just get a copy of XP and put it on there.
I did six site services in one day yesterday.
Wow.
It was crazy. And this whole week's been paperwork. And my buddy's been sick. He came in today and he was like, how you doing? It sounded like alerts. And I said, Greg, please sing Elvira. And he was not happy at that. He sounded horrible, but he had to come into work. He had to go out in the rain and work. Just a bad week at the store, bad week at home. Just bad week. So I'm looking forward to the weekend. And I've got something interesting to talk about for that, too.
All right.
Tomorrow night, I will be going to the Coal Miners Lounge, just right up the road a spell here.
Oh, man, that place is scary.
Oh, yeah. Well, guess what? It's getting a little scarier. There's a touring troupe of midget wrestlers that are playing there tomorrow night that we're going to have to see.
At the Coal Miners Lounge.
At the Coal Miners Lounge.
Oh, my gosh.
We had to buy advance tickets to go see these guys. Teresa, God knows where she found this ad. But there's a touring troupe of midget wrestlers, including lady midget wrestlers.
Of course.
I've seen a lot of weird stuff, but I've never seen midgets wrestle in a beer joint. But after tomorrow,
I want you to tell me exactly what the inside of the Coal Miners Lounge looks like, because
I am interested to see.
Yeah, because we drive by there all the time, and it just looks like a shady place.
I told Teresa when she said, "Hey, they're going to have midget wrestling." I was like, "Oh, great! Where is that?" She goes, "There's a place called the Coal Miners Lounge." I was like, "Oh no, that little beer joint there on the 60." She's like, "Is that where it's at?" I was like, how are they going to do that? Well, the midget wrestlers have a small ring that they bring with them.
Makes sense. Scaled size.
And so they're going to set it up in there, and we're just going to watch them fight, I guess, and drink. That's
could you imagine being the booking manager for something like that and calling it like, man, we got this group. You're going to want to get them in here because it's going to pack the crowd in. This midget wrestling,
I don't know where they could put a crowd. I honestly have no
because
idea.
the ring seems like it would take up the entire coal miners' lounge.
There's a side area to the coal miners' lounge that's a little bit bigger than I thought because I drove past it on the way up here.
Oh, okay.
But let me tell you something. Next week on this show, I'm going to have the story. I mean, if I don't get shanked, leave it to me. I'd work in all these prisons and stuff, and I'd get gutted at the coal miners' lounge.
Man, what a way to go out, though.
Yeah. That's true. If you're going to go out in the arms of a female midget, that's the way I want to go.
I think there's a song about that.
I was talking to Tree. Really, midget's an outlawed term.
You're right.
Right. But the only time you can successfully get away with it is midget wrestling. That's what it's always been known by. They still call themselves midgets. There's no little people wrestling. Midget wrestling. And I wonder how much longer you're going to even have midget wrestling. But it's neat. Listen, part of me, I love local wrestling. And this is such an. These guys are going to be in like Wisconsin on Sunday. And they're going to be in like Florida next week. I mean, they go everywhere. I like the idea that a group of midget wrestling
it's like a circus
tour around with a little ring.
Right.
It's just glory. That is America.
Ain't that America?
That makes me proud to be an American. That I could go and see midget wrestlers at a beer joint on Saturday night. That's where I'm going to go. And Chad and Matt are coming too.
Oh.
Chad, unbeknownst to me, bought 4 tickets after I mentioned I was going to this.
So he bought
me, Matt, Teresa, and him tickets.
Okay.
Yeah. It probably could get you in both.
Seriously, if it were not this weekend, I would totally go. But this is Eep's last weekend here before she departs for Thailand for a month. So.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Oh boy,
what are you going to
do with yourself?
It's going to be rough. I'm not used to being by myself, especially in this not a really huge house, but it's like.
Really, you shouldn't be by yourself.
Yeah.
Because God knows what you're going to buy in that month. Now that you're off the wagon.
I know.
You're just going to come home and there's going to be crap sitting
everywhere. I almost bought. I don't know if you saw it come up.
I'm just reading. Carry on. Oh, he wants to know what Discord is. Tell him about that.
Oh, so yeah, Discord is like IRC, like web-based IRC. If you use IRC, it's just like web-based chat, but it's got all kinds of integrations, and like we talk about all kinds of random stuff. There's several channels on the Amigos Discord where we talk about retro gaming, modern gaming, funky tunes at the behest of Aaron.
Yeah,
random stuff.
I needed funky tunes that day. I was getting depressed. I needed to hear some good tunes.
So on Facebook, I don't know if you saw this, but there was a Mr. and Mrs. Pack for sale.
I know the guy selling it.
Yeah,
and I've seen the Mr. and Mrs. Pack. I know where it's at, and I know the guy.
So I offered him a princely sum of $500 for it, but he turned it down.
What's he wanting?
He says $700 is his bottom line.
That's too much. And I know him, Adam Humphreys.
So
his name.
Maybe what I should have done was asked you first. Do you think $500 would have been too much?
I paid $550 for mine, and his is in better cosmetic shape. The table is. But I believe his has a couple issues.
Oh, yeah. It's got all kinds. He said it has display issues. The maze doesn't work right.
The problem with that, we could go into the technical terms here and bore everybody, but that's a cheap machine, and the parts are cheap, but it can be troublesome. The maze can be troublesome. Getting those LEDs all to work can be a hassle. I mean, mine has some flipper issues that need to be attended to. It works pretty good. But I believe he has board issues. Now, unless he got new boards for his, I know he was having board issues like the sound and stuff, and then you're going down a slippery slope there. So $500. He said that they're going to sell forever. So he may change his mind.
Yeah.
That's where we got our, what did we buy there? What's the name? Whodunit came from him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It also had issues, and that's the one Brent actually fixed. But yeah, he's a real good guy. He was at my Halloween party a couple years ago. I've known him. He used to go to the arcade stuff all the time. I see him occasionally. He's a big reseller. He goes to Goodwills and stuff and buys stuff and sells it.
Yeah, but I mean, I like that table. I know a lot of people don't like it, but I think it's fun, and Eep likes it. She likes Pac-Man, whatever.
The back glass is beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah,
it's unusual. I like the fact that it talks like a robot.
Pac-Man
could cut our news segment promos.
That's true.
So yeah, that wouldn't be the word. Hey, I hope you get it. Actually, that'd be great.
Yeah,
I'll put in a good word.
All right. All right. Well, let's see. Anything going on?
Everyone in the chat, if you're a Patreon, I'm not pushing Patreon, but if you are a Patreon. For the low, even if you just sit back and never talk, right? You need to get your Heinekens over on Discord I like to amass a small army on there so I
Yeah.
can chat with suckers at all hours of the day and night.
Yeah.
That's why I think it's awesome.
It's great too because the way that because we're all over the world, like if you go to bed at night, you wake up, there's like 8,000 things people are talking about.
Yeah, it's awesome.
So, yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
And you literally have people in there from everywhere.
Yeah.
Which is also cool. Thanks to the show, I feel cosmopolitan. I feel like I know. I feel like a citizen of the world.
That's right.
You know,
that's
as
right.
opposed to just some goofy doofus in a basement hurricane. You know, no offense to you, Bo.
Hey, this is the doofiest basement in Hurricane.
Yeah, man. And but hey, we're gonna keep the chat rolling here all the time, so that's never going to go away. I like having the chat during the show. I wish we had a separate screen where I could just look over to the chat. But then you know me, I'd be distracted.
Right.
So it'd be horrible. But I feel like I'm missing stuff. I'm like, oh, I know what they're.
Well, I just wish that YouTube would archive the chat like Twitch does. That's the one advantage of Twitch, is that you can watch the video in full screen and you can see the chat on the side, but maybe one day.
Eve's gone for a month, eh?
Yeah.
What's she doing over there?
Her best friend's getting married, her sister's getting married, and of course she hasn't seen her folks since 2014.
How come you're not going with her?
Because I've got, that
You couldn't
pesky
get that
job
much time
thing.
off?
They would let me go if
She
I
could
took
wait
a
till
month off.
summer to go home?
Her sister's getting married, and her best friend's getting married.
That's right. Well, I guess there you go.
Yeah. So
Bachelor pad, drinking at boats every night of the week.
Yeah, well, I'll be hanging out with you and Matt and Chad whenever that kind of thing goes down.
You know, the way things are going, you may have extra time off anyhow.
That's true. That's true.
It doesn't look good.
Man, you know, at first I was excited.
We're talking about the teacher strike,
Yeah,
by the way.
I was excited about the strike. I was like, yeah, this is going to be great.
Like in a happy way?
Well, I was like, yeah, I mean, we'll get more money. And you know, I'll get a couple days off school. But then I remembered that I thought about my daily pay, like, because I get paid by the day. And man, like if we're off for a week, that's my mortgage payment.
Does your union give you any, like, because sometimes unions in other areas will pick up some of the money for you.
No.
Like I have a chick I know at work. Her husband worked for I think it was the Steelworkers Union.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, they would give them like a per diem or
Right.
a living wage or whatever to survive.
Right. I think a lot of that has to do with how much you pay into the union, like your dues and stuff. The dues for the teachers union are pretty small. And most people I know, including myself, are mostly members of the union because it's great liability insurance.
That's what Hose always said.
Yeah.
And well, also in case somebody from one of the parents sue you. Or
yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
I know the union. I'm guessing not all teachers unions are created equal. I've always heard that the West Virginia union have a lot of cheddar. I know some. I'm guessing some have more than others.
And there's two teachers unions in West Virginia. You choose to be part of one or the other.
No kidding, I didn't know that.
So AFT is only for teachers. It's administrators can't be members of it, and the NEA you do have principals in it. And so the AFT teachers will say, though, that's not good because if you have a grievance against an administrator, the union's fighting for both of you.
I understand.
So, but
so do you think? What do you think is going to happen? Is it going to go down?
Yeah,
I know they're going to Capitol tomorrow. To
yeah,
go to
tomorrow
work.
there's a big rally at the Capitol. But I mean, it's good. We have to do something. You know, it's been a long time since the last one. I just hope that we can come to a compromise. I hope the unions can come to I hope they're not asking for too much.
I think you're boned, and I'll tell you why. First of all, as I've mentioned to you earlier, I'm on Discord. I'm with you. I'm right here behind you, but you got two things going against you, and they're both pretty big things. Number one, the state's tapped, and yes, maybe they can find another source, but that leads into number two. You've got the Republicans running the show, and they are not going to be. I would be surprised if they are receptive to a lot of demand.
Well, of course, and if it wasn't, if they weren't that way, we wouldn't even be having this conversation.
Right, exactly. And if you had the, I mean, you could. Listen, you could have just as easily struck with the Democrats. The same thing was going on.
Right, but I think that I'm
just saying it would have been more. It probably would have played better for you guys if they'd been in.
Yeah.
Now it's going to be a little tougher.
Right,
I think.
And so it's going to be one of those things where there's going to come a point at some point in the future if the strike goes on and on and on, where teachers are going to run out of money.
Yeah.
And they're going to have to come back to work. And it's just a question of, is there going to be enough of an outcry from the community, from whatever, saying, hey, my kid hasn't been in school for this long, something needs to change? Or are the teachers going to say, hey, we ran out of money, we've got to go back to work?
I will say this, and maybe I'm wrong, so this is a good question for you. I was under the impression that you guys had massive public support, all right? Teresa, I told that to her, and she said that's patently wrong. She says the public is, and she thinks the public is stupid. She's with you, but she thinks there's not massive public support because people are ignorant.
Well,
and they think the teachers are, and it's the old, in my day, you taught because you loved it, not to me that shtick. Which is stupid as that is. That's I don't know what do you think?
To be honest with you, I have no clue. It's so hard to gauge because it's not like there's like polls about this stuff. It's just anecdotal evidence. Like, do the people you hang around with think it's good? Well, and so, but nobody that I've talked to has said I'm against the strike.
You know what worries me? This is the paranoid person in me. I know talking about strike stuff isn't probably the most exciting thing to listen to, but I'll pay attention to some things, and I've noticed that this strike hasn't gotten the kind of news coverage that I thought it would, which was surprising to me. And hear me out before you jump in, because I know you're like getting ready to jump in. I look at everything. I do a tour of the web every day. I go to all the local news stations and stuff, and some have a blurb about it, but it's not high on the chart. And like the local NBC affiliate had nothing on it on the webpage at all, nothing yesterday. And I was real surprised. And when I start seeing omissions like that, because it's a big story, it's the big story. I mean, it's one of the big stories locally, right? I wonder why.
Well, here's my response. Once you write that story is written until something else happens. So they reported on it the last time they reported on it, but literally nothing has happened since then.
Stuff did happen.
Nothing has happened.
Yeah, they have. What are you talking about? Another county joined in after they announced the strike. Then they had a vote in Kanawha County about it. Then Putnam County and one of the other counties, the school boards came in and voted in support of the strike.
So how did you find out about all this stuff?
How did I find out? Because I looked in other areas. Plus, I looked in Facebook.
So
other news sources.
It is being talked about, just not in WSAZ.
But no, right? But why?
I don't know. I don't run WSAZ.
No, you're missing my point. Why would you not cover a big story? Is there a reason you're not covering it? And some of the other places, it wasn't billed as a big story. I think it's purposely downplayed because someone doesn't want it to get a lot of notice.
Well, I guess I
it's
think
a paranoid person.
I think that's certainly possible. But if you haven't taken a look around, this is a big story, but it's kind of not compared to all the other crap that's going on in our country right now.
Local stories, I understand.
But again, how many people, OD'd last night,
Someone got shot in Charleston.
Right.
So you don't think this is a story that merits being an upper level story or even mentioned?
Not until it happens.
Are you telling me you don't think there's any possibility that the omission or the downplaying of it is there for a reason?
No, I think there's definitely a possibility.
Okay.
I'm just saying that it's a possibility, but it's possible that they're just waiting, until the strike starts, and then they'll write about it.
One thing I've noticed, this isn't a big surprise, but often more is said by the non-coverage of things than the coverage of them. I've noticed not just locally, but nationally. When things aren't covered or they're covered in a certain way, it's a slant. I don't trust any news outlet. And this isn't a big Trump thing. This is just in general. The news often does a crappy job. They're often, a lot of the news places they're working an angle. They have a slant. And I just wonder if this is a slant.
It might be.
You never know. You look at me like you would have beat me. I'm just throwing this out there.
You could say that about anything.
No, you can't. You can't. Most stuff would be like something of this magnitude.
Again, this magnitude is in your mind. This magnitude is just something. It's not getting as much coverage as I think it should. Therefore, I think something's wrong. You're basing this against something that you created.
No, I get the standard for a story of this size.
Of this size. Again, there's nothing we can compare this to. The last teacher strike was in 1990.
But this is big news locally.
You're
talking about a place that covers like Uncle Joe's cow got tipped over last night.
Again, for you, it might be bigger news than for them.
No, I'm not buying it.
Okay, well, you don't have to, but
I'm not buying it. And your lack of skepticism, I find surprising in this.
I don't really care. I don't. Because
It's
if
under
the strike happens, then it's going to happen with or without the news writing about it.
No, this is a hard...
See, okay, because you're trying to play both sides. You're saying, well, the news dictates public opinion, but at the same time, you're saying, well, the news always has an angle, and so you shouldn't. So you can't play both sides of it.
You can. That's exactly what I mean.
Okay.
The news often has an angle, and the way they cover something plays into what they're after. Not always, and not necessarily local news, but sometimes. I'm just saying, I didn't think it was covered like it would normally have been.
But again, would normally have been the last teacher strike was in 1990.
I'm not comparing it to the last teacher strike.
What are you comparing it to?
I'm talking about news of local news of this importance.
Like, give me an example of another story of this importance.
Guy got shot in Charleston last night.
Okay, so in the news.
Okay, now I'm not saying this is equal as important, but that's a headline you're going to see every time. Now, are you going to see a headline? Missing woman found safe in Canova or whatever. That's a lower level story than the teacher strike, but that one would be
not for the family that found the missing woman in Canova.
No, we're on different pages here, bud. I'm not going to get down this road with you.
Okay.
I just something I thought I'd mention. I like to see what's missing. I don't even know what it means.
Yeah, I think in your room you've got the cork board with the strings and the newspaper clippings.
Listen to me. If you don't think that the press has an agenda, and I don't know where you live. You've got to lost your mind. They have a super agenda, and they're playing both sides. Even locally, they have an agenda. You don't buy it. I want to hear this.
I understand what you're saying, and I agree with you. But I think that you're sort of you're taking what's going on in the news. I think that the news. Why does the news exist? It exists because people want you to watch the program because they're selling advertising. That's why the news exists.
Yes.
Okay. People might be tired of hearing about the teacher strike because there's literally nothing going on. The teacher strike has not started yet. Okay. So the news is going to fill up their programming with things that they think that people will want to watch. If that's a lost woman found in Canova, they make that call because they think that's more important to more people than talking about the non-news of a teacher strike. That's how the news works. It exists to sell advertising. Now, if you want to put on your tinfoil hat and say, well, there's a conspiracy because they're trying to play an angle, that might be true, but it's not worth talking about because we don't know.
First of all, you instantly vilify me by saying I put on the tinfoil hat. It made me look like a goof.
You just told me that you were being. You just told me you were being paranoid.
What I'm
you
saying
said that's
is,
the paranoid side of me.
The news is there to make money, sure, but they're also there to sway opinion.
Okay.
And that's the angle I'm talking about.
Okay. So your thesis is that the news is not reporting on the teacher strike because they're on the side of the Republican lawmakers.
I don't know what the angle is.
Well, you have to flesh it out.
All I said is I found it odd that it wasn't getting the coverage that I would guess it would have gotten.
Okay.
You're giving me the teacher talking to the unruly student look and voice.
No, I'm
going to reply with "man hits teacher with chair" in about 2 seconds.
That's fine, man. A gripping pre-show.
Oh, God. This has got to be the worst one we've ever done.
I don't think I'm going to put this
Let's
out.
fight about politics now.
Yeah.
It's not even a fight. I'm on your side, for God's sakes.
No, and I never disagreed with you. I think that there's definitely a possibility that there's more to the story. But that's always the case with anything.
It's too late now, Boat. Don't
turn
jump
back
on
now?
Now it's too late now.
I believe.
No,
I'm
not buying it. What do you people think about the West Virginia teacher strike? What's the word in Denmark on the teacher strike?
Oh, Edmund wants us to talk about gun control. Why don't we open that up?
I'll throw this. You know, everyone in my family hunted back in the day. A lot of them have guns. I don't have guns. Guns scare the hell out of me. That much said, I wish I could open a portable hole, right, and magically take every gun ever made, muskets, Derringers, you know, that gun that Kirk shot the Gorn with on that Star Trek episode, and just put them in the hole forever, all right? Because other than that, I don't know how. Someone said there's 300 million guns in America. All right, we're screwed. we're screwed. They can control every gun. We're screwed. I mean, having this conversation is irrelevant. Listen, ban them. Don't ban them. We'll wear them as jewelry. We're all screwed. There are guns everywhere.
Yeah. I'm with you.
I don't have a gun, but if I wanted to get a gun, I could get 100 million guns like that. You know, cheap.
Yeah, people talk about, well, you should just make a law against guns. Yeah, we should just do that. We should just make a law against guns.
I mean, I think we're past the point of no return on the gun situation.
We've always been past the point of no return, you know? Like,
we're boned. Whoever asked that in the chat, we're all screwed.
Yeah. The solution is, if it freaks you out a lot, then you should live somewhere not in America.
Every day I send my kids to school, I get worried. And in a week like this, I get super duper worried. It literally... I'm trying to think about it because it's like I hate it. The whole gun thing, we're past that. Like, there is no solution. There's nothing. Anyone that is a little whacked or not or motivated can go obtain whatever they want, bombs, pointy sticks, baseball bat, and they can go rough up / kill as many people as they can before they get shot. That's it. We're screwed. Is it going to get better? Probably not. And it sucks. There you go. Gun control? Sure. No gun control? Okay. I mean, it doesn't matter.
Right. I agree with you.
It's anger. That really makes me mad. This is much bigger than the whole news conversation. I read on Facebook, people are fighting about this all the time. Guns didn't kill these guys, or mental illness. We're all just whistling in the wind.
Yeah. It's you're exhausting yourself on something that you cannot affect.
I mean, the answer is, I don't know.
Time machine.
How far back do you go, and then what do? You kill. You find the Winchester, and you just beat the tar out of them with a stick.
Smith and Wesson, all those guys.
And if it wasn't guns, there'd be mass slingshottings or pokings, or maybe there wouldn't be. I mean, maybe if we didn't have first-person shooters, there wouldn't be any. But maybe that doesn't mean anything. I mean, I don't know. Maybe if we didn't have Gunsmoke on TV for 50 years that everyone grew up watching, or A-Team, or or Dirty Harry, maybe that would stop it. Maybe it wouldn't.
Yeah.
It's infuriating. It's one of those things you can't even. People love to fight. They love to fight about it, and at the end of the day, I keep hearing everyone gets up on their soapbox about it. I've got the solution, or we haven't done this, or we haven't done that. People just blowing off steam. I mean, it's pointless. It's all pointless. It's very frustrating. I'm depressed.
Good night, folks.
God, whoever asked that, please. I hope that's an answer you can live with. Because, I mean, jeez, it's that gun situation. I've heard every angle and every side of the story, and it's just like let it go, man. That's another reason the week's been horrible. I mean, that's just, man, guns and drugs. We got problems. I mean, I don't know. Everybody in the world, I guess, is gone. Man,
it's amplified because it's everywhere. You turn the news is everywhere. Social media is everywhere.
I don't ever watch the news. I mean, I only
wait a minute.
I read all my news. I read it all. I can't, and I can only read it when I'm ready. Sometimes I'll watch a local. I just can't stand it. It'll bring you down. It'll bring you down.
Yeah. If you stop selling ammo, guess what's going to happen? The ammo trade is going to do what the drug trade does. You know how drugs are illegal and impossible to get? Oh wait, they're not.
I mean, not selling ammo, that might work. I don't know.
No, it would. Well,
but there's already so much ammo out there.
People have stockpiles. Again, the issue is never somebody goes out. Most of the time, it's not somebody goes out, buys a gun, buys ammo, kills people. It's somebody, especially in these school shootings. That's right. Parent has a gun in their house, improperly stored. / the kid knows where the locks and keys are. The kid gets the gun, gets the ammo, and shoots up a school.
Yeah.
It's just too many guns already out there. There's I think the gun trade is
Pitchbuzzer. The world needs to be a kinder place. That's the answer.
That is the answer.
Don't go killing people. But I mean, look at the guy that did this last thing. I don't want to go into this too, but I mean, from everything that we've been ascertaining, he's probably a mentally unstable dude. Who has problems. There was a lot of warning signs. There's going to be a lot of blame thrown around. But in the end of the day, if it's not him, it's going to be some other dude, some other place. The ones,
Yeah. But I mean, we've had Republicans in office. We've had Democrats in office. We've had the Democrats control the House and the Senate. We've had Republicans. Nothing ever changes.
Yeah.
Nothing ever gets better.
Yeah.
So,
you know, I don't know. I've heard people say put armed guards in the school, give teachers guns. But from everything I've read, this school had a real good security. The guy was, the guy that did it was just a cagey dude. He pulled the fire alarm, caused a bunch of chaos, and then went to work. I mean, it sucks. Just play Amiga games, for the love of Pete. play rough and tumble with your fake gun, shoot robots. That's fine.
That's good.
That's the way it should be. I have played, in my spare moments, I played a lot of Forbidden Forest, and I played this game a lot. It does help to relieve some stress as the week rolls on. If it wasn't for video games and some soothing music, I would probably have drove the fun bus off a cliff by now after the couple weeks we've had. So, man, just be thankful for what you got, I guess, and try to keep it together. I don't have a good parting thought this week, but
no, we shouldn't talk.
Frazzled, man.
Yeah, we next week's pre-show we'll do. We'll talk about.
It's funny because me and you, we rarely bring up politics or anything, and we're sort of in the same wavelength, despite you grilling me, and vice versa occasionally.
Well, most of the time I agree with you, and I'm just trying to have an argument.
But one thing's for sure, it's like, I mean, no matter what your perspective is, it's just news like this is just a horrible tragedy. It's a bummer. It's just like when 9/11 happened. You get that feeling where you just like everything seems hopeless. You know, I don't know how this kind of stuff plays in other countries. You know, I mean, everybody's got their own problems.
Yeah.
You know, but I mean, you know, hey, I wish all the bad news was gone. It was only good news. Just wave the wand. That's all you can say.
Yeah. Well, that's a good thing about the Amigos. We don't have to talk bad news. We just have to talk about Amiga.
Oh, God. And yet here we are, like a couple of idiots.
All right, guys. Thank you, Dan, Duncan, Edvin, Henrik, Pishbot, Zerfall. Thank you, Will. Everybody, thank you for hanging out with us.
We had a chick in here tonight?
Yeah.
Can I still say that, or am I going to get in trouble for lady?
Lady, female.
You know, that's unusual.
Yeah. So.
And we should never get this deep on the show, because we're not qualified to speak on things like this without getting emotional and stupid about it. You know, so next time, it's nothing but, it's just like, remember the guy we covered that game last week? He said the next game I do is going to be the lightest, frothiest, bunny hoppingest game. So next week we're just talking about rainbows, sunshine, and little baby Easter bunnies. That'll be a nice thing to do.
Sounds good. All right, guys, we'll see you then. Have a good night.
Adios, y'all.